Laura Bennett was a 42-year-old woman who owned a hair salon in Waterloo, Iowa. Her salon, Laura's Hair Haven, was the only one for hundreds of miles in this part of the Midwest where hoodies are considered common wedding attire. She was very dedicated to her clients, many of whom became her friends. Laura was known for her charm and bubbly personality. She always greeted everyone with a smile and made them feel welcome. Laura was also an active member of the community. She often volunteered at local shelters and participated in neighborhood events. She organized fundraisers and charity events, always looking for ways to help others. Laura was passionate about her work and her family. She loved styling hair and dreamed of expanding her salon business. She hoped to open a second location in the nearby town of Cedar Rapids. Laura lived in a cozy house on Maple Street with her husband, Mark Bennett. Mark, 45, was the coach of the local high school basketball team. The couple had been married for 20 years and celebrated their anniversary just a week before Laura's death. They had no children but were very close to their nieces and nephews, often hosting family gatherings at their home. Laura's family included her parents, John and Mary Turner, who lived in Cedar Rapids, and her younger sister, Jewel, who worked as a teacher. Laura and Jewel were very close, often spending weekends together shopping or watching movies. Laura's friends described her as caring and always willing to lend a hand. She was the type of person who remembered birthdays and always sent a card. On August 13, 2009, Laura spent the day at her salon, working with clients and catching up with friends. That evening, she went home to have dinner with Mark. They watched TV together, enjoying their favorite show, The Big Bang Theory. Laura was looking forward to a busy week ahead, filled with appointments at the salon and plans for the upcoming fundraiser. Laura's sudden and tragic death left the community in shock. Everyone who knew her felt a deep loss, and many wondered who could have wanted to harm such a kind and caring person. On August 14, 2009, at 8:00 a.m., it was a bright and sunny morning in Waterloo, Iowa. Mark Bennett, Laura's husband, woke up and went downstairs. As he entered the living room, he saw Laura lying on the couch. At first, he thought she was just sleeping, but something didn't seem right. She wasn't moving and looked very pale. Mark's heart raced as he walked closer and tried to wake her up. When she didn't respond, he panicked and grabbed the phone to call 911. His voice was shaky and full of fear as he spoke to the operator.
My wife, she won't wake up. I think something's wrong. Please, send help.
Sir, can you tell me your address?
Please hurry.
The operator assured him that help was on the way and instructed him to check if Laura was breathing. Mark followed the instructions, but there was no sign of life. He felt helpless and scared as he waited for the paramedics to arrive. Within minutes, an ambulance pulled up to the Bennett home, followed by a police car. The paramedics rushed in and quickly assessed Laura's condition. Unfortunately, it was too late. Laura was pronounced dead at the scene. The paramedics tried to comfort Mark, who was in shock and couldn't believe what was happening. News of Laura's death spread quickly through the small town. Neighbors gathered outside the Bennett home, whispering and speculating about what could have happened. Laura was well known and loved in the community, and her sudden death left everyone in shock. Laura's body was taken to the medical examiner for an autopsy to determine the cause of death. As the day went on, the reality of the situation began to sink in for Mark and the community. A beloved member of their town was gone, and everyone wanted answers. The Waterloo Police Department arrived quickly at the Bennett home on August 14, 2009. It was a sunny morning, and the usually quiet Maple Street was now filled with the flashing lights of police cars and an ambulance. Detective Sarah Collins Miller and Detective Jojo Roberts, both well-respected in the community, led the investigation. Detective Miller was known for her keen attention to detail, while Detective Roberts was praised for his methodical approach. As they entered the house, they were struck by how peaceful everything looked. Laura Bennett was found lying on the couch in the living room. There were no signs of a struggle, and nothing appeared out of place. Laura looked as if she had simply fallen asleep, but the detectives knew something much more sinister had occurred. The detectives began their investigation by speaking with Mark Bennett, Laura's husband. He was visibly distraught and still in shock from finding his wife that morning. Mark explained that Laura had seemed fine the night before, and he couldn't understand what had happened. The detectives took note of his calm yet detached demeanor, making sure to record his every word. Next, the detectives examined the crime scene. The living room was tidy, with Laura's favorite magazines like People and Better Homes and Gardens, a highbrow magazine by Iowa standards, neatly stacked on the coffee table. A cup of tea sat untouched next to a partially finished crossword puzzle from the local newspaper, the Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier. Detective Miller noticed a faint, unusual odor in the room, which she later identified as coming from Laura's teacup. The police called in a forensic team to collect samples and gather evidence. They carefully bagged the teacup and its contents, hoping to find clues about what had caused Laura's sudden death. Detective Roberts directed the team to check for any fingerprints or traces of foreign substances in the room. They also searched the house for any signs of forced entry, but found none, suggesting that Laura knew her killer. Based on the initial findings, the detectives suspected poisoning but needed confirmation. Further examination revealed the cause of death: poisoning by aconitine, a potent toxin derived from the aconite plant, which induced cardiac arrest. As the investigation progressed, the detectives used various tools to gather more information. They interviewed neighbors and friends, reviewed Laura's recent activities, and checked her phone and email records. Each piece of evidence was carefully logged and analyzed. Detective Miller and Detective Roberts knew they had a challenging case ahead of them. Laura's death was a mystery, but they were determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to the Bennett family and the community of Waterloo. The first suspect the police focused on was Mark Bennett, Laura's 45-year-old husband. Mark, a high school basketball coach, was known for his reserved and meticulous nature. Recently, Mark had been acting distant and stressed, which raised suspicions about his involvement in Laura's death. His calm but detached demeanor during the initial questioning had also been noted by the detectives. Detective Sarah Collins Miller and Detective Joe Roberts brought Mark in for further questioning at the Waterloo Police Department. The interrogation room was small, with gray walls and a single table with chairs. The atmosphere was tense as the detectives began their questions.
Mark, we need you to tell us about your relationship with Laura.
We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I loved her. She was everything to me.
Recently, did you notice any changes in Laura's behavior or health?
No, she seemed fine. Busy with her salon and planning that fundraiser.
The detectives then asked about the night before Laura's death. Mark explained that they had dinner together and watched their favorite TV shows, including The Big Bang Theory, American #1 show at the time. He said they went to bed around 10 p.m. and everything seemed normal. But Mark's stress and distant behavior in the weeks leading up to Laura's death couldn't be ignored.
Mark, we found out that Laura had a large life insurance policy. Can you explain that?
Yes, we got the policy a few years ago. It was just to be safe. We never thought we'd need it.
The detectives noted his response but needed more. They pressed him further about his recent stress. Mark admitted that work had been overwhelming, but he denied any involvement in Laura's death. His calm demeanor began to crack as the questioning continued. Despite his emotional response, the detectives knew they had to keep all possibilities open. Mark had a possible motive with the life insurance money, and his recent behavior raised red flags. They decided to follow up with more interviews and background checks on Mark's activities and relationships. Mark was allowed to go home but remained under close watch. The detectives were determined to find out if his reserved exterior hid a darker side, or if he was just a grieving husband caught in a nightmare. The investigation into Laura Bennett's death took a startling turn when suspicion fell on Bobby Lynette, an 18-year-old senior at Waterloo High School. Bobby, known for his outgoing personality and athletic prowess, was a close friend and personal trainer to Laura. However, rumors swirled about a possible sexual relationship between Bobby and Laura's husband, Mark Bennett, who was also his basketball coach, adding a layer of complexity to the case. Detective Collins Miller, leading the investigation, interviewed Bobby at the local police station. Bobby, dressed in his high school football jersey, appeared nervous but cooperative. He denied any involvement in Laura's death and expressed shock and sadness at the news. However, his body language betrayed his unease, and Detective Collins Miller sensed there was more to his story. To gather more information, Detective Collins Miller spoke with Laura's friends and acquaintances. They revealed that Laura and Bobby spent a lot of time together, both at the gym and socializing outside of training sessions. Some even mentioned seeing them together at local events, such as the August Festival held at Lincoln Park. The local media picked up on the story, spreading lurid stories about the nature of Bobby's relationship with Laura and his possible motives. The small town of Waterloo buzzed with gossip, with everyone eager to learn more about the young man at the center of the investigation. As the investigation continued, Detective Ogle-Miller delved deeper into Bobby's background. She discovered that Bobby had a troubled family history, with his parents going through a messy divorce earlier that year. His friends described him as impulsive and hot-headed, prone to outbursts of anger. During further questioning, Bobby's demeanor changed. He became defensive and agitated, insisting that he had nothing to do with Laura's death. However, his inconsistent statements and evasive answers only raised more suspicion. Detective Ogle-Miller knew she had to tread carefully. With Bobby's popularity in the community as a football and basketball star and the lack of concrete evidence linking him to the crime, building a case against him would be extremely challenging. But she was determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Laura and her grieving family. As the sun set on Waterloo in August of 2009, the investigation into Laura Bennett's death continued, with Bobby Lynette at the center of the storm. In the midst of the investigation into Laura Bennett's tragic death, a new piece of evidence emerged, casting a shadow of doubt over the case. On a bright August morning in Waterloo, Iowa, a neighbor stumbled upon a torn piece of paper while taking out the trash. The paper, partially soaked from recent rainfall, turned out to be a torn fragment of a love letter. It was addressed to Mark Bennett, Laura's husband, and signed by David Reynolds, a local florist. The discovery of the torn letter sent shockwaves through the community and breathed new life into the investigation. Detective Sarah Collins Miller, leading the case, wasted no time in analyzing the letter. Despite its partial state that the content hinted at a long-term sexual relationship between Mark and David, adding a layer of complexity to the already intricate web of suspects and motives. Meanwhile, forensic experts meticulously examined the torn letter for fingerprints and DNA evidence. Every detail, no matter how small, was scrutinized in the quest for answers. The letter, now a crucial piece of evidence, held the potential to unravel the mystery surrounding Laura's death and bring her killer to justice. As the investigation unfolded, tensions rose in Waterloo. Residents anxiously awaited updates on the case, hoping for closure and justice for Laura and her grieving family. Detective Collins Miller remained focused and determined, her unwavering commitment to the truth driving her forward in the pursuit of justice. David Reynolds, a 27-year-old florist, became the third suspect in Laura Bennett's mysterious death. David was known around Waterloo for his friendly personality and his flower shop, David's Blossoms, which he had run for 5 years. His secret romance with Mark Bennett had started 10 years ago, when David was a high school student and Mark was his basketball coach. This revelation shocked the quiet conservative community. Adding fuel to the already hot fire, David had an argument with Laura a week before her death. Neighbors reported hearing loud voices and seeing Laura leave David's shop looking upset. This argument, coupled with David's intense emotions towards Mark, raised suspicions. On August 19, 2009, David was brought in for questioning at the Waterloo Police Department. During the interrogation, David was nervous and shaky. Detective Collins Miller asked him about his relationship with Mark and the argument with Laura. David admitted to the affair but denied any involvement in Laura's death.
I love Mark, but I would never hurt Laura. She didn't deserve this.
What about the argument you two had?
Laura found out about the affair and confronted me. She was angry, but I promised her I would end it with Mark. I didn't want to cause any more pain.
David's emotional state and conflicting statements made him appear suspicious. He struggled to keep his story straight, especially when asked about his whereabouts on the night of Laura's death. He claimed he was at home, alone, watching The Big Bang Theory, something no one could verify. The investigation into David's past also revealed a pattern of obsessive behavior. Former friends described him as intensely focused on his relationships, sometimes to an unhealthy degree. This information, along with his nervous demeanor during questioning, made Detective Collins believe he could be capable of something drastic. The police continued to gather evidence, checking David's phone records and looking for any signs of a chemotine, the poison used to kill Laura, in his shop or home. The investigation was far from over, and David remained under close scrutiny. On August 21, 2009, the Waterloo Police Department had a major breakthrough in Laura Bennett's case. The police discovered that Bobby Lynette, the 18-year-old high school student, basketball and football star, personal trainer, close friend of Laura, and alleged lover of her husband, Mark, had purchased aconite from an online vendor a few weeks before Laura's death. This crucial piece of evidence pointed directly to Bobby as the person who poisoned Laura. Detective Sarah Collins Miller and her team traced Bobby's online purchase history and found the receipt for the aconite. When they confronted Bobby with this evidence, he broke down and confessed to the crime. He admitted that he had poisoned Laura, hoping to eliminate her and David Reynolds, Mark's other lover, thus having Mark Bennett all to himself. Bobby's plan included using a rare plant toxin to frame David, a florist, for the murder. On the day of Bobby's arrest, it was a stormy evening. The sky was dark and rain poured heavily as the police surrounded Bobby's home. Bobby was taken into custody without any resistance. Surprisingly, he appeared calm and seemed resigned to his fate. During his confession, Bobby revealed details of his meticulous plan. He explained how he had researched various poisons and decided on aconite because it was hard to detect and would cause cardiac arrest. Bobby said he had slipped the poison into Laura's tea on the morning of her death. He hoped that the evidence would lead the police to suspect David Reynolds due to the heated argument he had with Laura the week before. Mark Bennett, Laura's husband, was deeply involved in the case as well. He told police that he had been using Bobby to divert suspicion from his own affair with David Reynolds. He had known about Bobby's feelings for him and manipulated Bobby's emotions to keep the affair secret. As the truth came out, the small town of Waterloo was shocked. Laura's family and friends were devastated by the betrayal and the loss of such a beloved member of their community. However, they were also relieved that justice had been served and that Laura's murderer had been caught. This tragic case of love, betrayal, and murder left a lasting impact on Waterloo. Laura Bennett's memory was honored by the community she had loved and served. Her salon, a symbol of her dedication and hard work, continued to operate under new management, ensuring her legacy lived on. The trial of Bobby Lynette began in December 2009. The case drew significant attention from the local community, with local stations covering the proceedings. The courtroom was packed with Laura Bennett's family, friends, and curious residents of Waterloo. Assistant District Attorney Jane Julie Carter, a 38-year-old known for her fierce dedication, led the prosecution. She presented the case that Bobby's actions were premeditated and driven by his obsessive love for Mark Bennett. Carter showed the jury the evidence of Bobby's purchase of aconite from an online vendor, his confession, and his detailed plan to poison Laura. On the other side, the defense attorney, Michael Reedley, a 55-year-old seasoned lawyer known for his calm demeanor, argued that Bobby was manipulated by Mark Bennett. Reedley claimed that Bobby acted out of misguided affection and was used as a pawn in Mark's plan to cover up his affair with David Reynolds. Reedley portrayed Bobby as a young man caught in a tragic situation, unable to see through Mark's manipulation. Throughout the trial, Laura's family watched with heavy hearts. They heard the details of the love triangle and the tragic events leading to Laura's death. Mark Bennett testified, denying any involvement in the planning of the murder, but his role in the affair with David and his manipulation of Bobby became clear. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On December 18, 2009, they returned with a verdict. Bobby Lynette was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge announced the sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Bobby showed little emotion as he was led away, his fate sealed. Laura's family expressed mixed emotions. They were relieved that Bobby was held accountable for his actions, but they also felt a lingering sense of injustice. Mark Bennett, despite his role in the events that led to Laura's death, faced no legal consequences. The case left a deep impact on the Waterloo community. People were shocked by the betrayal and the dark secrets that had surfaced. Laura Bennett's salon, one of only 3 in the state of Iowa, continued to operate under new management, honoring her memory and dedication to the community. The town of Waterloo, though shaken by the events, came together to support each other, hoping to heal from the tragic loss of a beloved friend and neighbor. In the aftermath of the trial, Mark Bennett and David Reynolds decided to leave Waterloo. The scandal and publicity surrounding Laura Bennett's death made it difficult for them to stay. In August 2010, they both quit their jobs. Mark as a high school basketball coach, and David as a florist. They moved to Sacramento, California, hoping to start anew and escape the shadow of the tragedy. In California, Mark and David worked hard to rebuild their lives. They found new jobs, with Mark coaching at a local community center and David opening a small flower shop. Their relationship grew stronger, and they eventually got married in 2015. Together, they adopted 2 children, creating a new family and a fresh start far from the painful memories in Waterloo. Detective Sarah Collins, now divorced, continued her career with the Waterloo Police Department. Her work on the Laura Bennett case earned her a reputation for her tenacity and skill. She took on more challenging cases and became a well-respected figure in law enforcement. Her dedication to solving crimes and bringing justice to victims remained unwavering. Laura Bennett's family struggled to cope with their loss but found a way to honor her memory. They established the Laura Bennett Scholarship Fund in 2011. The scholarship was aimed at helping local high school students pursue higher education, reflecting Laura's spirit of kindness and community service. The fund received widespread support from the community, with annual fundraisers and events to keep Laura's legacy alive. The town of Waterloo slowly healed from the tragic events. While the pain of Laura's loss could never be erased, these actions helped the community find a path forward. In the suburban tranquility of Rochester, New York, Vanessa Robertson, age 46, led the life emblematic of the American dream. A dedicated mother of 3 and a valued filing clerk at the iconic photography company Kodak, Vanessa's life was one interwoven with the fabric of her community. Nestled in a 4-bedroom home on a street lined with similar manifestations of middle-class aspiration, she was a figure of constancy and warmth. Vanessa's educational journey culminated with a degree from the University of Rochester, an institution renowned for its contribution to research and academia. It was here that she not only honed her professional skills but also met her husband, Andrew, forging the beginnings of their shared future. The world outside her home was in the throes of change. The news cycle of March 2010 was dominated by the Affordable Care Act debates, and the tremors of the Great Recession were still palpable in households and boardrooms alike. Kodak, once a titan of industry, was grappling with the digital revolution, its struggles an echo of the wider economic uncertainty. Despite the tumult, Vanessa's focus remained on the immediate joys and challenges of life. Her eldest was preparing for college, her middle child was navigating the throes of adolescence, and her youngest was on the cusp of celebrating her 10th birthday. Vanessa poured her dreams into her children's futures, envisioning for them a world of possibilities that perhaps she had never dared to imagine for herself. Colleagues at Kodak described Vanessa as diligent and personable, a woman who brought order to the chaos of filing with a smile that seldom waned. Friends spoke of her as the linchpin of her family, a woman whose laughter could light up a room and whose presence was a comfort in uncertain times. In the days before her untimely death, Vanessa was absorbed in the minutiae of life, from planning her daughter's birthday party to navigating the everyday demands of her job. Unbeknownst to her, the threads of her carefully woven tapestry were about to unravel in the most tragic of circumstances. On the cold morning of March 15, 2010, as Rochester residents awoke to the remnants of a winter chill, a grim discovery was made in a quiet neighborhood. At 7:30 a.m., under a slate-gray sky, the smoldering remains of what was once a family home on Maplewood Drive were found. The house, belonging to Vanessa Robertson, a 46-year-old Kodak employee, had been reduced to a blackened shell. The distressing find was made by Diana Hastings, a neighbor and longtime resident of the area. Diana, who had set out to collect her morning newspaper, was met with an acrid smell and a scene of destruction that halted her in her tracks. The Robertson residence, known for its well-kept lawn and the laughter of children, lay in ruins before her. With shaking hands, she reached for her cell phone and dialed 911, her voice quivering as she reported the catastrophe to the authorities. As news of the fire began to spread, local media outlets picked up the story, interrupting regular programming with breaking news alerts. The tragedy quickly became the talk of the town, overshadowing the usual buzz about the upcoming St. Patrick's Day celebrations and the latest reports on the healthcare bill making its way through Congress. Firefighters, who had battled the blaze through the night, were still on the scene, dousing the last of the smoldering embers when police arrived. It was amid this backdrop of charred timbers and the stark reality of a life interrupted that Vanessa's body was discovered. Positioned in what was once the living room, her remains bore the silent testimony to the inferno's deadly force. The community, just beginning its day, was now united in shock and mourning. The Robertsons, active members of their local church and participants in neighborhood gatherings, were well regarded, and Vanessa's death resonated with a poignant intensity. As the reality of the tragedy set in, the question on everyone's lips was whispered: How could this happen? The Rochester Police Department was swift to respond to the call from Maplewood Drive on that bleak March morning. The first officers arrived within minutes, their squad cars breaking the early silence. The scene they encountered was one of devastation. A family home, once a symbol of suburban stability, now lay in ruins, a stark contrast to the neighboring houses untouched by the tragedy. Detectives Matthew Harmon and Liana Grace, veterans of the force, were tasked with leading the investigation. They approached the scene with a practiced calm, but the gravity of the situation was not lost on them. The air was still tinged with the scent of smoke, and the debris from the fire crunched underfoot as they surveyed the damage. The crime scene was a harrowing tableau. Amidst the blackened remains of the Robertson home, Vanessa's body was found. There were no overt signs of violence, but the circumstances were suspicious enough to consider foul play. The detectives, well-versed in the grim language of crime scenes, noted the absence of personal effects that might have survived the fire, raising questions about the intensity and origin of the flames. As they cordoned off the area, Harmon and Grace directed the forensics team to begin their meticulous work. Using the latest in crime scene technology, including thermal imaging cameras to detect any residual heat sources and accelerant-sniffing dogs to trace the path of the fire, the team combed through the ashes. Every fragment was potential evidence, every clue a possible key to unraveling the mystery of Vanessa Robertson's death. The local media, already abuzz with the healthcare debates and the international headlines of Chile's recent earthquake, now had a domestic tragedy to report. Camera crews and reporters gathered at the perimeter, their lenses and microphones capturing the somber investigation for an audience grappling with the shock of the event. As the day wore on, the community awaited answers. The Rochester Police Department was under pressure to piece together the puzzle of the house fire that had claimed one of their own. For Detectives Harmon and Grace, the task was clear: to bring clarity and justice to a scene shrouded in ash and ambiguity. The investigation into Vanessa Robertson's death led detectives to the doorstep of the first suspect, Elzar Jones. At 75, Jones was a fixture in the community, known for his stern demeanor and his sprawling farmland that bordered the Robertson property. A property dispute between Jones and the Robertsons had been simmering for months, a fact that did not escape the attention of the Rochester Police Department. Elzar Jones had lived through the ebbs and flows of rural life and had seen his share of conflict over land and legacy. His farm, a once thriving enterprise, had felt the sting of the Great Recession, and the dispute with the Robertsons over a contested piece of borderland had added to the weight of his troubles. Despite his advancing years, Jones harbored dreams of leaving a prosperous and unencumbered farm to his heirs, a dream that seemed to be slipping through his fingers. When detectives Harmon and Grace arrived to question him, they found Jones in his barn, tending to his equipment, seemingly unfazed by the police presence. His response to their inquiries was laced with indignation. He vehemently denied any involvement in the fire, his voice rising above the clatter of the news reports from a radio perched on a nearby workbench, the voice of a local anchor discussing the latest unemployment figures. A stark reminder of the tense economic climate. Jones's interrogation was conducted with the precision of seasoned investigators. They probed for inconsistencies in his alibi, scrutinized his reactions, and searched for any flicker of guilt that might betray complicity. Jones, for his part, remained obstinate, his replies a mixture of defiance and exasperation. The detectives left the farm with more questions than answers. The Rochester community, still reeling from the news of the fire and the death of one of their own, watched with a mix of curiosity and concern. The investigation was unfolding under the watchful eye of a town unaccustomed to such tragedies, and the spotlight on Elzar Jones was unrelenting. As the investigation into the tragic fire progressed, detectives turned their focus to Kristen Vmont, a 35-year-old colleague of Vanessa Robertson at Kodak. Vmont, known for her ambitious streak within the company, had reportedly clashed with Vanessa on multiple occasions, leading to a palpable tension in the office that did not go unnoticed by their coworkers. Kristen had joined Kodak during a time of significant transition as the company struggled to adapt to the digital age in the wake of declining film sales, a struggle mirrored in news reports and business analyses of the time. Her aspirations to ascend the corporate ladder were well known, and she envisioned herself as a transformative figure within the company, capable of steering Kodak back to its former glory. Detectives Harmon and Grace approached the interrogation with a methodical strategy, aware of the delicate nature of office politics and the undercurrent of rivalry that could potentially motivate a crime. They questioned Kristen at the police station, where she presented herself with a composed exterior that belied the seriousness of the situation. Throughout the questioning, Kristen maintained her calm, her responses measured and deliberate. She acknowledged her professional disagreements with Vanessa but firmly denied any personal animosity that would lead to such a heinous act. Her demeanor was cool and collected, even as the detectives pressed her on the details of her whereabouts on the night of the fire. The Rochester community, still processing the loss of one of their own, followed the case with growing interest. Local media outlets, in between updates on the latest iPad release and the unfolding healthcare debate in Washington, kept the public informed of every development. The scrutiny on Kristen Vmont intensified as the police continued to piece together the events leading up to the fire, her professional dreams and ambitions now cast in the shadow of a criminal investigation. On March 20, 2010, as the city of Rochester braced against a persistent spring drizzle, the investigation into Vanessa Robertson's death took a significant turn. Detectives Harmon and Grace received a report that breathed new life into the case. A series of anonymous, threatening emails sent to Vanessa in the weeks prior to her death had been uncovered by the department's cybercrime unit. The emails, traced back to an untraceable source, were laced with vitriol and menacing undertones, digital missives that painted a picture of someone with a vendetta against Vanessa. The discovery of these emails shifted the narrative of the investigation, suggesting that the fire might have been a premeditated act of violence rather than a tragic accident. The Rochester Police Department's response was swift and methodical. The forensics team, equipped with advanced software used to analyze digital communications, worked tirelessly to extract any metadata that might lead to the identification of the sender. Meanwhile, detectives revisited the charred remnants of the Robertson home, searching for any physical evidence that might corroborate the digital threats. The news of the threatening emails rippled through the community, which was already grappling with the economic anxieties of the time, the whispers of Kodak's financial troubles, and the broader implications of the ongoing recession. The case, with its new twist, was now the subject of fervent discussion on local radio shows and in the comment sections of online news articles, as residents of Rochester sought to make sense of the unfolding drama. As the investigation pressed forward, the police remained tight-lipped about their findings, though it was clear that the discovery of the emails had provided a new avenue of inquiry. The Rochester community watched on, hopeful that this latest development would bring them closer to understanding the events that led to the tragic loss of Vanessa Robertson. The Rochester Police Department's search for Vanessa Robertson's killer led them to a third individual of interest, George Stanovich, a 45-year-old ex-convict whose presence had been noted in the vicinity of the Robertson residence in the days preceding the fire. Stanovich, with a past marred by criminal activity, had been attempting to reintegrate into society, holding on to the dream of leaving his checkered history behind him. Stanovich's occupation since his release from prison had been sporadic, with him taking on various odd jobs around Rochester. His transient nature and proximity to the Robertsons' home during the critical time frame made him a figure of suspicion in the eyes of the detectives. Stanovich's aspirations for a normal life, free from the stigma of his past, were now overshadowed by the investigation. Detectives Harmon and Grace approached the interrogation with the intent to peel back the layers of Stanovich's recent activities. The questioning took place against the backdrop of a city still in shock, with local news outlets like WRC-TV and the Democrat and Chronicle closely following the case, providing the public with a steady stream of updates amidst their coverage of the healthcare bill's progress and the local impact of the economic downturn. During the interrogation, Stanovich's demeanor oscillated between anxious and defensive. He acknowledged his presence in the area but claimed it was innocuous, related to a potential job opportunity. His responses were tinged with the frustration of a man familiar with being on the wrong side of the law, yet he maintained his innocence regarding the fire and Vanessa's death. The Rochester community, already on edge from the recession's impact on local industry giants like Xerox and Bosch and Lohm, watched as the police delved deeper into Stanovich's alibi. With each passing day, the pressure mounted to solve the case and provide answers to a family and a city in mourning. The relentless pursuit of truth by the Rochester Police Department culminated in a revelation that would shake the foundations of the Robertson family and the community at large. Andrew Robertson, a 48-year-old engineer at Kodak and the bereaved husband of Vanessa Robertson, emerged as the prime suspect in the case. The economic strain of the Great Recession had left Andrew facing the prospect of unemployment, as Kodak, once a bastion of innovation and prosperity, was now grappling with the seismic shifts of the digital age. Andrew, described by colleagues as a pragmatic man deeply invested in his work, had been harboring a secret that would unravel his seemingly stable life. With Kodak's layoffs making headlines and the financial security of families across Rochester hanging in the balance, Andrew had been silently drowning in desperation. His dream of maintaining the comfortable life he had built for his family was slipping away, and in a moment of profound misjudgment, he set his home ablaze, intending to claim the insurance without his wife's knowledge. On that fateful March evening, as the city contended with the chill of early spring and the local news reported on the burgeoning Tea Party movement's rallies, Andrew had not realized that Vanessa would be home. The fire, intended as a desperate escape from financial ruin, instead became an act of unintended but irreversible devastation. Detectives Harmon and Grace, after painstakingly reconstructing the sequence of events and analyzing the evidence, confronted Andrew with their findings. His facade of stoicism crumbled as the implications of his actions became clear. The man who had sought to protect his family from economic hardship had instead torn it asunder. As the news of Andrew's arrest spread through Rochester, the city was left to grapple with the dichotomy of a man who was both a respected engineer and now a convicted murderer. The case, a stark reminder of the pressures that can fracture even the most ordinary lives, became a touchstone for discussions on the far-reaching effects of the recession. On the evening of March 25, 2010, under the dimming light of an overcast sky, the Rochester Police Department made a decisive move in the case of Vanessa Robertson. Andrew Robertson, a 48-year-old Kodak engineer and the unsuspecting husband turned suspect, was taken into custody. The city, still grappling with the economic anxieties of the recession and the uncertainty surrounding local stalwarts like Kodak, now witnessed the dramatic turn in a case that had captivated the community. The arrest occurred at Andrew's temporary residence, a modest hotel room he had retreated to amidst the investigation. Detectives Harmon and Grace, armed with evidence of his ill-fated attempt to escape financial ruin, approached with a warrant. The scene was far removed from the technological advancements and corporate strategies discussed in Kodak's boardrooms or the latest healthcare debates that dominated the airwaves. Andrew's reaction to the arrest was a complex tapestry of emotions. Surprise registered on his face, quickly followed by the dawning realization of the consequences of his actions. The man who had engineered a desperate plan to secure his family's future through an act of arson was now confronted with the irreversible outcome of his wife's death. As the news of the arrest broke, it rippled through Rochester's local media, with reporters from stations like Wham and WGC providing live updates. Breaking into scheduled programming that included March Madness basketball and the latest episodes of popular TV shows. The community, which had been following the case with bated breath, now grappled with the reality that the tragedy was rooted not in random violence but in a domestic spiral gone horribly wrong. The Robertson children, already facing the loss of their mother, were dealt another blow with the arrest of their father. The family's grief was compounded by a sense of betrayal, their private turmoil laid bare for all to see. As the details of the case unfolded, the city of Rochester bore witness to a family's heartbreak and the downfall of a man who had succumbed to the darkest reaches of despair. The trial of Andrew Robertson commenced amidst a climate of heightened public interest. The courtroom, a stage for the unfolding drama, was presided over by a sea of legal professionals, media personnel, and a community seeking closure. Helen Pierce, the prosecutor, stood as a figure of relentless justice. At 52, her reputation was that of a formidable presence in the courtroom, having navigated numerous high-profile cases with a blend of legal acumen and unwavering resolve. On the opposing side, defense attorney Sheila Keller, 47, was known for her persuasive oratory and empathetic approach to the law. Keller's task was to humanize Andrew, to cast him as a tragic figure overwhelmed by the economic pressures that had seized the nation, much like the recession's grip on Rochester's own corporate giants, Kodak and Xerox. As Pierce laid out the prosecution's case, she weaved a narrative of premeditated arson, a desperate act by a man on the brink. She referenced the digital evidence, the financial strains, and the insurance policy that pointed to a motive rooted in economic despair. The courtroom, filled with the hum of whispered speculation, was a microcosm of the wider world, where news cycles were dominated by stories of financial ruin and corporate bailouts. Keller's defense painted a different picture, that of a man who had made a catastrophic error in judgment, without malice or intent to harm his beloved wife. She highlighted Andrew's role as a provider, a man caught in an economic maelstrom that had left him floundering. Throughout the proceedings, the emotional toll on Vanessa's family was palpable. They sat, a portrait of sorrow, their presence a silent testimony to the life that had been so abruptly taken from them. The trial, unfolding under the scrutiny of local media outlets like the Democrat and Chronicle, became a somber reflection of the times, a narrative of personal tragedy against the backdrop of national economic hardship. The somber atmosphere of the Rochester courthouse was palpable as the jury returned with their verdict for Andrew Robertson. After hours of deliberation, which seemed to echo the broader societal deliberations on justice and economic hardship, the jury found Andrew guilty of manslaughter and arson. The decision reverberated through the courtroom, where the tension had been as thick as the March fog blanketing the city's skyline. Prosecutor Helen Pierce, her career marked by a string of successful convictions, stood satisfied with the outcome, believing justice had been served. The defense attorney, Sheila Keller, known for her eloquent defenses and a personal touch that often resonated with juries, was visibly subdued, his expression reflecting the weight of the verdict. The sentencing phase brought a heavy penalty as the judge, attuned to the severity of the crime and its repercussions, imposed a lengthy prison sentence. The gravity of the sentence sought to reflect not only the loss of Vanessa's life, but also the betrayal of trust and the breach of safety within the sanctity of one's home. Some in the community felt the punishment was just, considering the deliberate act of setting the fire, while others debated the role of Andrew's desperate financial circumstances, drawing parallels to the leniency shown in some corporate bailouts of the era. The impact of the sentence on Vanessa's family was complex. While some felt a measure of relief, others questioned whether any sentence could adequately address the void left behind. Friends and family, their emotions raw, were divided on whether justice had truly been served. Local news outlets, which have been following the case with the same intensity as the national coverage of the iPad's release earlier that month, now reported on the community's reaction. The sentencing was more than a legal conclusion. It was a moment of reflection on the personal cost of the economic downturn that had swept through Rochester and the nation. In the wake of the trial that had gripped Rochester, life slowly began to move forward. The family of Vanessa Robertson, now navigating a world without her, sought solace in the support of the community and in each other. The children, bereft of both parents, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, their resilience a testament to their mother's enduring influence. Detectives Harmon and Grace, who had become fixtures in the media narrative surrounding the case, returned to their duties. The experience, however, left an indelible mark on their careers. They continued to serve with a renewed understanding of the complexities of human behavior and the unforeseen impacts of financial despair. The suspects who had been drawn into the case, Elzar Jones, Kristen Vmont, and George Stanovich, sought to reclaim their reputations and move past the cloud of suspicion that had briefly overshadowed their lives. Jones returned to his farm, Vmont to her ambitions at Kodak, and Stanovich to his quest for redemption. Rochester itself, a city that had witnessed the rise and fall of industrial giants, the ebb and flow of economic fortunes, and now the tragic end of one of its own, continued to evolve. The case had become a part of its history, a story recounted in the pages of the Democrat and Chronicle and discussed in the quiet corners of local establishments. As the memory of the trial faded from the headlines, overtaken by coverage of the 2010 midterm elections or the latest advancements from companies like Apple, the community did not forget the lessons learned. The tragedy of Vanessa Robertson served as a stark reminder of the human cost of economic hardship, a narrative that resonated in the collective consciousness of a city all too familiar with change. Life after the trial was not just about moving on, it was about remembering and finding meaning in the aftermath of loss. For all those touched by the case, the journey forward was one paved with reflection, resilience, and a hope for a future free from such heartbreak. The case of Vanessa Robertson is a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the unforeseen consequences of desperation. In the quiet suburb of Rochester, a family was torn asunder, and a community was left to find healing in the aftermath of a tragedy that was as senseless as it was sorrowful. In the affluent Orange County suburb of Mission Viejo, California, Kevin Zegler, age 43, lived a life that many would envy. As a financial analyst, Zegler had carved out a successful career for himself, a testament to his hard work and dedication. A graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, he had always shown a keen acumen for numbers and an ambition that propelled him from a humble beginning to the ranks of respected professionals in the financial sector. Zegler's home life, on the surface, appeared equally fulfilling. Married to Olivia, a high school teacher with aspirations of authorship, the couple had 2 children and resided in a picturesque neighborhood emblematic of the American dream. They were often seen at local spots, enjoying the community's offerings, from the serene Lake Mission Viejo to the bustling shops at Mission Viejo, where the family could be spotted on weekends browsing through the latest releases at Barnes & Noble or enjoying a meal at one of the local eateries. In the days leading up to his untimely death in September 2003, Zegler was reportedly working on a significant project at work, one that he believed could be a turning point in his career. According to colleagues, he had been putting in extra hours, fueled by the dream of one day becoming a financial director. His dedication was evident in his meticulous planning and the detailed presentations he was known for. However, beneath the facade of professional success and domestic bliss, there were rumblings of discontent. Friends and family hinted at tensions within the marriage, though few could have predicted the tragic outcome. In this period, the world was still reeling from the aftermath of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, and the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster earlier in the year had cast a shadow over the nation. Yet, in the Zegler household, a different kind of storm was brewing, one that would end in a shocking and violent act. On the evening of September 15, 2003, the tranquility of Mission Viejo, a community renowned for its safety and high quality of life, was shattered. Kevin Zegler, a 43-year-old financial analyst, was found dead in his garage, a victim of a point-blank shooting. The discovery was made by Mark Thompson, a neighbor and friend, who had ventured over in the fading light to return a borrowed lawnmower, an act reflecting the close-knit nature of the community. The weather that evening was uncharacteristically damp for Southern California, with a light rain that had begun to fall, casting a somber mood over the neighborhood. Thompson, upon finding Zegler's body, was overcome with shock. His immediate reaction was to call 911, his voice shaking as he struggled to convey the gravity of the situation to the dispatcher. The dispatcher, trained for moments of crisis, worked to calm Thompson while simultaneously dispatching police and emergency services to the scene. Mission Viejo, part of Orange County, was known for its idyllic settings and had been featured in various media as a desirable place to live. The community, with its well-kept homes and manicured lawns, was a stark contrast to the crime scene that awaited the first responders. The Zegler residence, a 2-story home typical of the area's architecture, now bore the hallmarks of a tragedy. The community, which typically worried about mundane issues reported in the local Mission Viejo dispatch, such as city council decisions or school board meetings, was now the backdrop for a real-life crime drama, the likes of which were usually confined to the pages of the Los Angeles Times or the nightly news. Upon receiving the distress call on the evening of September 15, 2003, the Mission Viejo Police Department acted with immediate urgency. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores, both with years of experience in the field of criminal investigation, were dispatched to the scene. Their arrival was prompt, a testament to the efficiency and dedication of the local law enforcement in maintaining the safety and security of this Orange County community. The scene that awaited Gomez and Miraflores was grim. Kevin Zegler, a 43-year-old financial analyst known in the community for his professional success and active family life, lay dead in his own garage, a victim of a shooting at point-blank range. The garage, typically a mundane space filled with the trappings of suburban life such as sports equipment and gardening tools, had been transformed into a crime scene. The air, still heavy with the scent of rain from the earlier downpour, was now tinged with the metallic smell of blood. Detectives Gomez and Miraflores approached the investigation with a professional calmness, but the brutality of the crime was not lost on them. The crime scene was meticulously documented, with photographs taken and evidence collected. Among the items of interest were bullet casings and potential fingerprints, crucial pieces in the puzzle of who had committed this heinous act. The methodology of the investigation was thorough, reflecting advancements in forensic science that had been highlighted in media outlets such as CSI, a popular television show at the time that had brought forensic science into the living rooms of the American public. The detectives utilized a variety of tools and techniques, from dusting for fingerprints to canvassing the neighborhood for witnesses. Their goal was clear: to piece together the events leading to Kevin Zegler's death and to bring the perpetrator to justice. In the days that followed, the community of Mission Viejo, typically concerned with the comings and goings reported in the local Mission Viejo Dispatch or the broader issues covered by the Los Angeles Times, found itself at the center of a real-life investigation. The tranquility of the suburb had been disrupted, leaving residents to grapple with the reality of the crime among them. The investigation into Kevin Zegler's murder swiftly turned its focus towards those closest to him, with Olivia Zegler, his 41-year-old wife, emerging as suspect number one. Olivia, a high school teacher with aspirations beyond her classroom walls, had often spoken of her dream to pen a romance novel. Her life in the picturesque Orange County suburb of Mission Viejo, while seemingly idyllic, was under scrutiny as detectives delved into the intricacies of her marriage to Kevin. Olivia's interrogation was conducted with precision, reflecting the seasoned expertise of detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores. The questioning took place against the backdrop of a community still reeling from the shock of the crime, a sentiment echoed in the somber tones of local media coverage. The Mission Viejo Dispatch, along with regional news outlets, had begun to piece together the narrative of a troubled marriage, hinting at financial strains and personal grievances that may have motivated the crime. During the interrogation, Olivia's demeanor fluctuated between composed and visibly distressed. She vehemently denied any involvement in her husband's death, her voice firm yet tinged with emotion as she recounted the details of their life together. Her aspirations, once centered around literary success, were now overshadowed by the grim reality of her situation. The detectives probed Olivia's account, searching for inconsistencies or signs of deceit. The questioning, methodical in its approach, was reminiscent of the high-stakes interviews portrayed in popular crime dramas of the time, such as NBC's A Law and Order. The police sought to understand not just the facts, but the emotional undercurrents of Olivia's relationship with Kevin, believing that the motive for murder often lay hidden in the complexities of personal connections. As the interrogation unfolded, the community of Mission Viejo watched with bated breath, the case becoming a focal point of discussion. Neighbors and friends, once casual observers of the Zeglers' life, now found themselves questioning what they thought they knew about the family next door. As the investigation into Kevin Zegler's murder deepened, attention shifted to Lana Henry, a 31-year-old real estate agent entangled in a secret sexual relationship with the victim. Lana, characterized by her ambition and independence, harbored dreams of establishing her own real estate empire in the competitive market of Southern California. Her involvement with Kevin, however, cast a shadow over her professional aspirations, drawing her into a narrative far removed from the glossy listings and upscale open houses that defined her career. The interrogation of Lana Henry was conducted with a keen awareness of the delicate balance between personal and professional lives in affluent communities like Mission Viejo. Detectives Gomez and Miraflores, leveraging their experience, navigated the questioning with a focus on uncovering motives rooted in jealousy or fear of loss. The backdrop of this interrogation was a society still grappling with scandals that dominated headlines in 2003, from corporate fraud to celebrity trials, reflecting a fascination with success and moral fallibility. Throughout the interrogation, Lana maintained a composed demeanor, her responses measured and deliberate. She articulated her shock and grief over Kevin's death, emphasizing her innocence and distancing herself from any motive for murder. Her calmness under scrutiny mirrored the poise expected of a successful real estate agent, accustomed to negotiating under pressure and managing perceptions. The police, in their questioning, sought to piece together Lana's whereabouts and interactions with Kevin in the days leading up to the murder, scrutinizing every detail for inconsistencies. As the investigation unfolded, the community of Mission Viejo, usually preoccupied with the serene lifestyle and local events reported in the Mission Viejo Dispatch, found itself at the heart of a mystery that echoed the dramatic narratives seen on national news. Lana Henry, once a figure synonymous with real estate success, was now a key player in a story that blurred the lines between personal tragedy and public spectacle. On a crisp morning on September 20, 2003, a pivotal breakthrough occurred in the investigation of Kevin Zegler's murder. The serene suburb of Mission Viejo, typically bustling with the weekend activities of its affluent residents, became the focal point of a significant development. A local pawn shop, nestled among the array of businesses catering to the community's upscale clientele, reported a suspicious transaction that would alter the course of the investigation. The shop, known for its discreet dealings in high-end goods, had recently acquired a firearm that matched the description of the murder weapon. The seller, identified as David Forster, a 29-year-old personal trainer with aspirations of opening his own gym, was not typically associated with such transactions, raising immediate red flags for law enforcement. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores responded with the urgency that had characterized their approach to the case. Their arrival at the pawn shop was swift, underscoring the gravity of the new evidence. The shop's surveillance footage provided them with clear images of Forster, adding a tangible lead to their investigation. This development, reminiscent of the plot twists often found in the crime dramas that dominated television in 2003, added a layer of complexity to the case. The discovery prompted a reevaluation of the relationships and motives surrounding Kevin Zegler's murder. Forster, previously on the periphery of the investigation, was now a central figure. His connection to Olivia Zegler, revealed through further probing, suggested a web of personal entanglements that could provide a motive for the crime. As the news of the breakthrough spread, the community of Mission Viejo, usually insulated from the kind of violence that grabs national headlines, found itself at the center of a narrative filled with intrigue and betrayal. The local media, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, closely followed the developments, capturing the attention of residents who were unaccustomed to such disruptions in their peaceful enclave. With the investigation's focus shifting towards David Forster following the pawn shop revelation, the Mission Viejo Police Department intensified their efforts. David, a 29-year-old personal trainer with entrepreneurial dreams of starting his own fitness center, found himself under the harsh glare of the law. His illicit sexual relationship with Olivia Zegler, once a private affair, became a critical element of the case, suggesting a complex motive rooted in personal connections and emotional entanglements. The interrogation of David Forster was conducted against a backdrop of increasing media attention. As details of the case emerged, local outlets like the Mission Viejo Dispatch and regional news sources began to draw parallels between this real-life drama and the intricate plots of popular crime shows which were captivating audiences in 2003. The community of Mission Viejo, typically more concerned with local events and lifestyle features, found itself at the center of a narrative that combined elements of passion, betrayal, and violence. During questioning, David's responses vacillated between moments of anger and profound despair, reflecting the emotional turmoil of being implicated in such a grave crime. His demeanor, at times defensive, provided investigators with insights into his psychological state and the nature of his relationship with Olivia. The interrogation process, meticulous in its execution, sought to unravel the sequence of events leading up to Kevin Zegler's murder, with David's potential motive scrutinized under the lens of forensic evidence and behavioral analysis. As the case unfolded, the tranquil suburb of Mission Viejo became the backdrop for a story that resonated with themes of love, jealousy, and revenge, capturing the attention of a community unaccustomed to such disruptions. The investigation into David Forster's involvement, propelled by the discovery of new evidence, marked a turning point in the case, drawing connections between personal vendettas and the act of murder. As the investigation into Kevin Zegler's murder progressed, the pieces of the puzzle began to coalesce, centering on David Forster as the perpetrator. A 29-year-old personal trainer with aspirations of opening his own gym, Forster's involvement in the crime was initially obscured by his peripheral presence in the victim's life. However, his relationship with Olivia Zegler, the victim's wife, emerged as a critical axis around which the motive for the murder revolved. The revelation that Olivia had manipulated Forster with fabricated tales of abuse at the hands of her husband added a layer of complexity to the case. She painted a grim picture of her life with Kevin, alleging torture with knives and fire, thereby inciting Forster to commit the ultimate act of violence. This manipulation, rooted in deceit, highlighted the dark underbelly of personal relationships and the lengths to which individuals might go to extricate themselves from undesirable situations. Forster, driven by a misplaced sense of heroism and protective fervor, carried out the murder, shooting Kevin Zegler point-blank upon his return home. This act of violence, executed with chilling precision, was the culmination of a series of manipulations and lies that blurred the lines between victim and perpetrator. The community of Mission Viejo, nestled in the heart of Orange County and typically insulated from the violent upheavals that grip other parts of the country, found itself grappling with the reality of a murder rooted in domestic discord. The case, with its twists and turns, bore resemblance to a soap opera or telenovela. However, for the residents of Mission Viejo, the murder of Kevin Zegler was a stark reminder of the fragility of the veneer of suburban tranquility. As the investigation drew to a close, the motives and actions of David Forster and Olivia Zegler were laid bare, revealing a tangled web of emotions and deceit that led to a tragic end. On the morning of September 25, 2003, the quiet streets of Mission Viejo were disrupted by the sound of police sirens as law enforcement moved to arrest David Forster, the man now identified as Kevin Zegler's murderer. The arrest, conducted with the precision and seriousness characteristic of the Mission Viejo Police Department, marked a pivotal moment in a case that had gripped the community. David Forster, a 29-year-old personal trainer whose aspirations of opening his own gym had been overshadowed by his involvement in a deadly love triangle, was taken into custody without incident. His reaction to the arrest was one of surprise and resignation, as if the weight of his actions had finally settled upon him. Alongside Forster, Olivia Zegler, the mastermind behind the tragic plot, was also arrested, her role as the instigator of her husband's murder now fully exposed. The reaction of Kevin Zegler's family to the arrest was a complex mix of relief and profound grief. While justice was being served, it did little to fill the void left by Kevin's untimely death. The community, too, was left to grapple with the unsettling reality that such a heinous act could occur in their seemingly peaceful suburb. Local media outlets, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, covered the arrest extensively, reflecting the shock and sadness felt by many. As the case moved towards trial, the actions and motivations of David Forster and Olivia Zegler were scrutinized, offering a cautionary tale about the destructive power of deceit and manipulation. The arrest of the perpetrators brought a sense of closure to some, but for others, it was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the complexity of human relationships. The trial of David Forster and Olivia Zegler for the murder of Kevin Zegler unfolded in a courtroom filled with tension, anticipation, and the heavy weight of grief. As the proceedings began, the prosecutor, Angie Hashimoto, a seasoned attorney known for her meticulous preparation and unwavering commitment to justice, presented a compelling case against the defendants. Hart's argument painted a vivid picture of a premeditated murder, orchestrated by Olivia and executed by David, rooted in deception and betrayal. On the defense side, Michael Choi, a defense attorney with a reputation for his persuasive courtroom demeanor and strategic acumen, argued on behalf of Forster and Olivia. Evans sought to frame his client's actions within the context of emotional manipulation and psychological distress, suggesting that the complex dynamics of their relationships had clouded their judgment. The trial, closely followed by local media, echoed the public's fascination with true crime stories and real-life cases covered in the news. The community of Mission Viejo, still reeling from the shock of the murder in their midst, watched as the legal drama unfolded, bearing witness to the unraveling of a tragedy that had struck at the heart of their suburban tranquility. In the end, the jury delivered a guilty verdict for both David Forster and Olivia Zegler, sentencing them to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was met with mixed emotions, relief that justice had been served, but sorrow for the lives irrevocably changed by the crime. Kevin Zegler's family, while grateful for the legal resolution, mourned the loss of a husband, father, and son, whose absence left a void no verdict could fill. The trial's conclusion marked the end of a chapter for the community of Mission Viejo, but the story of Kevin Zegler's murder remained a somber reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of a perfect life. In the aftermath of the trial that captivated the community of Mission Viejo, the lives of those involved in the case of Kevin Zegler's murder began to slowly adjust to a new normal. The conviction and sentencing of David Forster and Olivia Zegler to life without parole brought a sense of closure to a saga that had unfolded with the intensity of the crime dramas that were popular in the early 2000s, such as CSI and A Law and Order. Yet, the reality of the situation left a lasting impact on the community, a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the depths of human complexity. Detectives Sarah Gomez and Eric Miraflores, who had been at the forefront of the investigation, continued their work with the Mission Viejo Police Department, their experience with the case adding a somber layer of wisdom to their approach to law enforcement. The case had not only tested their investigative skills, but also offered a poignant lesson in the unpredictable nature of human emotions and motivations. For the family of Kevin Zegler, life moved forward amidst the shadow of loss. The void left by Kevin's untimely death remained, a painful reminder of the vibrant life that had been so abruptly taken. Yet, in their grief, they found strength in each other and in the support of a community that had rallied around them during their time of need. The community of Mission Viejo, known for its serene lifestyle and picturesque surroundings, had been shaken by the events that transpired. Local media, including the Mission Viejo Dispatch, which had closely followed the case, continued to reflect on the lessons learned and the questions raised about safety, trust, and the hidden turmoil that can exist behind closed doors. As the years passed, the case of Kevin Zegler's murder remained a touchstone for discussions about crime and justice in suburban America. For those directly affected, the journey towards healing and understanding continued, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of tragedy. The tragic case of Kevin Zegler reminds us of the dark complexities of human relationships and the devastating impact of deceit and betrayal. This episode of True Crime Case Files has explored the depths of love, jealousy, and ultimately murder in the quiet suburb of Mission Viejo. In the heart of Boulder, Colorado, nestled among the majestic Rocky Mountains, lived Daniel Molinsky, a 46-year-old professor with a profound knowledge of geology. His life was a tapestry of dedication to science and personal battles. Yet, these struggles never overshadowed his reputation as a brilliant mind and a cherished educator at the University of Colorado. In March of 1988, the small town of Boulder, Colorado was abuzz with excitement as the spring semester began at the University of Colorado. Daniel Molinsky, with his salt and pepper hair and wireframe glasses, was a familiar face among the faculty. Known for his captivating lectures on the geological wonders of the world, he had garnered a reputation as one of the most respected professors in his field. His office, cluttered with rock samples and geological maps, was a testament to his passion for the subject. But behind the scenes, Daniel's life was far from perfect. He had battled with alcohol addiction for years, and although he had managed to achieve sobriety, the scars of his past still haunted him. His struggle with bipolar disorder added another layer of complexity to his already turbulent life. Yet, despite these challenges, Daniel remained committed to his work and his family. His son Vincent, a bright and ambitious 13-year-old, was attending the Colorado School for the Deaf. Daniel, wanting to create a comfortable space for his son, had embarked on a project to convert the attic into a bedroom. He spent countless hours researching the best materials and meticulously planning the renovation. The attic was filled with boxes of insulation, tools, and blueprints, evidence of Daniel's unwavering love. Even as he navigated the complexities of his own life and his marriage to his wife, Sandra. Amidst this backdrop, Daniel's death struck a chord of mystery. Was it an unfortunate accident, a desperate act of suicide, or something more nefarious? As we delve deeper into this enigma, we invite you to join us on this journey of discovery. Together, we will explore the life and untimely demise of Daniel Molinsky. On that fateful day in March 1988, the tranquil city of Boulder, Colorado was basking in the warmth of a clear and calm afternoon. The residents went about their daily routines, unaware that tragedy was about to strike the peaceful neighborhood. Daniel Molinsky, a 46-year-old esteemed professor of geology at the University of Colorado, was engrossed in a home improvement project. He had been diligently working on converting his attic into a cozy bedroom for his beloved son, Vincent, a student at the Colorado School for the Deaf who eagerly anticipated the completion of his new space. As the afternoon sun cast its gentle glow upon the picturesque landscape, Daniel, with his tools in hand, ascended the ladder to install a window in the attic. It was a routine task for him, having spent years honing his handyman skills. However, on this fateful day, tragedy struck with a merciless force. In a sudden and inexplicable turn of events, Daniel lost his footing and plummeted to his untimely demise. The deafening silence of the fall was shattered by the anguished cry of Sandra Molinsky, Daniel's wife and a professor of English literature at the same university. The shock and disbelief that washed over her were palpable as she stood there, frozen in the face of this unimaginable tragedy. Sandra, her heart pounding, immediately dialed emergency services, her trembling fingers struggling to find the right buttons on the rotary phone. The authorities were dispatched with urgency, racing against time to unravel the mysteries surrounding Daniel's death. As news of the tragic incident spread, the tight-knit community of Boulder was left reeling. The local newspaper, the Boulder Daily Camera, covered the story extensively, capturing the collective sorrow that gripped the town. Friends, colleagues, and students mourned the loss of a man who had left an indelible mark on their lives. The investigation into Daniel Molinsky's death began in earnest, with the Boulder Police Department meticulously examining the scene for any clues or signs of foul play. The media attention surrounding the case intensified, with television stations like KMGH-TV and KCNC-TV reporting on the ongoing investigation, hoping to shed light on the enigma that had shattered the tranquility of Boulder. The Boulder Police Department swiftly responded to the distress call from Sandra Molinsky, who had discovered her husband's lifeless body. Led by seasoned investigator Detective Michael J. Miller, known for his meticulousness, the team arrived at the scene prepared to unravel the mysteries surrounding Daniel Molinsky's tragic death. The attic, where the incident occurred, was meticulously examined by the investigators. The room appeared to be in pristine condition, devoid of any signs of struggle or disturbance. The investigators carefully combed through every inch of the space, searching for clues that could shed light on the circumstances leading to Daniel's demise. As they meticulously analyzed the attic, the investigators took note of the window that Daniel had been installing before his fall. They examined the window frame, checking for any signs of faulty installation or structural issues that could have contributed to the tragedy. They also inspected the tools and materials present in the vicinity, looking for any potential hazards or malfunctions. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the events leading up to Daniel's fall, the investigators interviewed Sandra Molinsky and other individuals close to the deceased. They learned that Daniel had been working tirelessly on converting the attic into a bedroom for their son, Vincent. It was an ambitious project, and Daniel had been eagerly preparing the space for his son's arrival. During the interviews, the investigators discovered that Daniel had been struggling with bipolar disorder and was a recovering alcoholic. They delved into his medical history, seeking to determine if these factors played a role in his untimely demise. They reached out to medical professionals, seeking expert opinions on the potential impact of these conditions on Daniel's mental and physical well-being. The investigators, determined to leave no stone unturned, reviewed the evidence collected thus far. They consulted with forensic experts, seeking their insights into the cause of Daniel's fall. Every detail was examined, from the angle of the fall to the presence of any substances that could have impaired Daniel's judgment. With each passing day, the investigation grew more complex as the investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind Daniel Molinsky's tragic death. Sandra Molinsky, a 42-year-old professor of English literature at the University of Colorado, found herself at the center of the investigation into the mysterious death of her husband, Daniel Molinsky. The couple's tumultuous relationship had long been a topic of gossip among their colleagues and friends, with witnesses recalling heated arguments and public displays of discord. One witness, who wished to remain anonymous, claimed to have seen Sandra and Daniel engaged in a heated argument outside a local coffee shop just days before the tragic incident. They were shouting at each other, and Sandra looked furious. The witness recounted, "I couldn't hear the details, but it seemed like a serious disagreement." The police, armed with this information, focused their attention on Sandra as the primary suspect in the case. The investigators delved into the couple's troubled marriage, uncovering a shocking revelation. Sandra had been involved in an illicit affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English literature student at the university. Zoe, a striking young woman with a passion for literature, had captured Sandra's heart and led her down a path of deceit. The affair had been going on for several months, and Daniel, a recovering alcoholic diagnosed with bipolar disorder, had only discovered his wife's infidelity 2 days before his death. Sources close to the couple claimed that Daniel had confronted Sandra about her affair just a day before his tragic fall. The police interrogated Sandra, looking for any signs of guilt or motive. During the intense questioning, Sandra displayed a range of emotions, from anger to sorrow. She vehemently denied any involvement in her husband's death, insisting that their arguments were merely a result of the strain in their marriage. As the investigation continued, the police discovered Sandra's had no alibi for the time of Daniel's fatal fall. They interviewed neighbors, checked surveillance footage, and reviewed credit card statements, leaving no stone unturned. The revelation of Sandra's presence at the house during Daniel's fall added a new layer of complexity to the case. The investigators now had to determine whether Sandra's presence was coincidental or if it held a more sinister meaning. In the investigation into the mysterious death of Daniel Molinsky, a new person of interest emerged, Zoe Brunwick. a 22-year-old English literature student.
Zoe's involvement in an affair with Sandra Molinsky, Daniel's wife, raised suspicions and made her a compelling suspect in this puzzling case. At the time of Daniel's tragic fall, Zoe was a student at the University of Colorado, where Sandra also taught English literature. She was a petite and bookish young woman, was known for her love for the novels of erotic novelist Joyce Lehman and her admiration for Sandra's intellect. Zoe's motive for potentially harming Daniel stemmed from her desire to be with Sandra and escape the confines of their secret relationship. The affair had been going on for several months, and the two women had managed to keep it hidden from the prying eyes of their colleagues and friends. It was an illicit love affair that had the potential to ruin both their personal and professional lives. On the day of Daniel's death, Zoe had arranged a secret meeting with Sandra. They had planned to meet at a local coffee shop, the Daily Grind, which was a popular hangout spot for students and faculty alike. The coffee shop was known for its cozy atmosphere and delicious pastries, making it a perfect place for clandestine meetings. The police, aware of this meeting, questioned Zoe extensively about her interactions with Sandra on that fateful day. Zoe displayed a combination of fear and defiance during the interrogation, adding an air of intrigue to the investigation. She adamantly denied any involvement in Daniel's death, claiming that she had no knowledge of his plans or the circumstances surrounding his fatal fall. As the investigation progressed, the police diligently examined phone records, analyzing fingerprints found at the crime scene, and interviewing potential witnesses, determined to uncover the truth behind Daniel Molinsky's tragic demise. As the investigation into the death of Daniel Molinsky progressed, the police made a startling discovery. On a day not long after Daniel's tragic fall, they stumbled upon a hidden letter in the possession of Sandra Molinsky, his wife and primary suspect in the case. This letter, written in a state of emotional turmoil, provided a glimpse into the depth of Sandra's affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English lit student. The contents of the letter were both shocking and disturbing. In the letter, Sandra expressed her desire for Daniel to just die, a chilling statement that sent shivers down the spines of the investigators. It also revealed her resentment towards Daniel, blaming him for their son Vincent's deafness. The letter painted a picture of a tumultuous relationship fraught with secrets and hidden desires. The police meticulously analyzed this newfound evidence, hoping it would provide crucial insights into the case. They sought the assistance of forensic experts, hoping to link it definitively to Sandra and establish its authenticity. They also reached out to handwriting analysts to compare the writing in the letter to known samples of Sandra's handwriting. As news of the investigation spread, the media seized upon the sensational nature of the case. Newspapers and television stations across Boulder were abuzz with speculation and theories. Journalists camped outside the Molinsky residence, hoping to catch a glimpse of Sandra or Zoe, who had become local celebrities in their own right. The case took a surprising turn when a witness came forward, claiming to have seen Sandra and Zoe arguing vehemently in a local cafe on the day of Daniel's death. This witness, a regular patron of the cafe, provided a detailed description of the heated exchange, further fueling suspicions of foul play. With each passing day, the investigation into the death of Daniel Molinsky grew more complex. The police painstakingly sifted through the evidence, determined to uncover the truth behind this puzzling case. Vincent Molinsky, the 13-year-old son of Daniel and Sandra, was also present in their Boulder, Colorado home on that fateful day in March 1988. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they considered the possibility that Vincent may have witnessed or inadvertently played a role in his father's death. They meticulously analyzed his movements and actions leading up to the incident, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. During their investigation, the police discovered that Vincent's current bedroom was located just below the attic where his father met his untimely demise. This detail increased the possibility of Vincent witnessing the actual fall. Furthermore, the investigators interviewed Vincent's classmates and teachers at the Colorado school for the death, seeking any information that could shed light on his behavior or potential involvement in his father's death. They found no evidence to suggest that Vincent had exhibited any unusual behavior or had any knowledge of the events transpiring at his home. In fact, Vincent's teachers described him as a diligent and focused student who showed no signs of distress or distraction during the days leading up to his father's tragic accident.
They emphasized that Vincent was fully engaged in his studies in ASL, displaying a keen interest in his classes and maintaining a positive attitude. Ultimately, the evidence pointed to Vincent's innocence. The young boy had been engrossed in playing Super Mario Bros. In his bedroom, completely unaware of the tragedy unfolding in his own home. The investigators concluded that he played no role in his father's death. Following an extensive investigation into the mysterious death of Daniel Molinsky, they have honed in on a prime suspect. Sandra Molinsky, a respected professor of English Lit at the University of Colorado, was charged with the murder of her husband. The authorities diligently pieced together the puzzle, uncovering a web of deceit and betrayal. It was revealed that Sandra had been engaged in a secret affair with Zoe Brunwick, a 22-year-old English Lit student. The affair, which had been ongoing for several months, was discovered by Daniel just a day before his tragic fall. This revelation sent shockwaves through the couple's already strained marriage. Witnesses had often seen Sandra and Daniel engaged in heated arguments in public, hinting at the tumultuous nature of their relationship. The police delved into the couple's personal history, discovering that Sandra blamed Daniel for their son's deafness. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the case, as it shed light on the deep-seated resentment Sandra harbored towards her husband. On the day of the incident, Sandra and Zoe had a secret meeting, unbeknownst to Daniel. The police questioned Zoe extensively, her demeanor oscillating between fear and defiance. Her involvement in the affair, coupled with the clandestine meeting, made her a compelling suspect. Crucial evidence emerged when the police discovered a hidden letter in Sandra's possession. The letter, penned by Sandra herself, revealed the depth of her emotional turmoil and her desire for Daniel to just die. It also contained sexually explicit details about her affair with Zoe and her blame towards Daniel for their son's condition. This newfound evidence provided valuable insights into Sandra's mindset leading up to the tragic events. The investigation also focused on Vincent Molinsky, the couple's 13-year-old deaf son. The police initially considered the possibility that Vincent may have witnessed or inadvertently played a role in his father's death. However, after a thorough examination, his innocence became clear. He was merely playing Super Mario Bros. In his bedroom, oblivious to the unfolding tragedy. Through mostly circumstantial evidence, the police built a strong case against Sandra Molinsky. Her motive, the discovery of the affair, combined with the resentment she harbored towards her husband, painted a compelling picture of a woman driven to silence Daniel. The evidence pointed towards a premeditated act planned to appear as an accident. As the case unfolded, the public eagerly awaited the trial of Sandra Molinsky, a trial expected to shed further light on the events surrounding Daniel's death and provide closure for those affected by this tragic loss. The trial of Sandra Molinsky, the primary suspect in the death of her husband, Daniel Molinsky, captivated Colorado in March of 1988. The courtroom, located in the Boulder County Courthouse, a historic building located in downtown Boulder, Colorado, was filled with anticipation as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each determined to sway the jury in their favor. The prosecution, led by renowned District Attorney Jonathan Thompson, meticulously built his case against Sandra. They presented a series of witnesses, including neighbors who had heard arguments between Sandra and Daniel, as well as friends who had witnessed their strained marriage. The prosecution also introduced evidence of Sandra's affair with Zoe Brunwick, a young English Lit student. The defense, represented by Lisabel Thompson, who coincidentally was Jonathan's estranged wife, on the other hand, questioned the credibility of the evidence against Sandra. She argued that the affair between Sandra and Zoe did not prove she was capable of murder. She viscously took apart the police investigation, pointing out inconsistencies and raising doubts about the prosecution's case. As she noted, the evidence was all circumstance and based almost solely on Sandra's failures as a wife. Throughout the trial, the victim's family, including Daniel and Sandra's deaf son, Vincent Molinsky, sat in the courtroom, hoping for justice. Now a 14-year-old student at the Colorado School for the Deaf, Vincent sat quietly, his eyes fixed on his mother. The trial lasted for weeks, with the prosecution and defense presenting their witnesses and evidence. Finally, after careful deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreperson stood up and pronounced Sandra Molinsky not guilty. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the family, the defense, and even some members of the public expressed shock and disbelief. The outcome left many questioning whether justice had truly been served. In the aftermath, the trial of Sandra Molinsky became a topic of discussion among legal experts and true crime fanboys alike. The Boulder County Courthouse returned to its usual business, but the echoes of this captivating trial lingered in the minds of all those who followed the case. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the Daniel Molinsky case took divergent paths. Sandra Molinsky, the accused wife, now a free woman, faced the arduous task of rebuilding her life and reputation. She made the decision to return to her home country of the United Kingdom, seeking solace in the familiar surroundings of her childhood. Meanwhile, Zoe Brunwick, the young woman at the center of the affair, quietly graduated from the University of Colorado and disappeared from the public eye. Her whereabouts remained unknown, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As for Vincent Molinsky, the deaf son of Daniel and Sandra, he embarked on a journey of healing and resilience. With the support of the Colorado School for the Deaf, Vincent found solace in his studies and extracurricular activities. He excelled academically, displaying a keen interest in science and mathematics. Vincent's story of triumph over adversity captured the attention of local news outlets, who dubbed him the deaf prodigy. The Daniel Molinsky case, which unfolded in the tranquil town of Boulder, Colorado, in March of 1988, left an enduring impact on the lives of those involved. The trial's outcome, with Sandra Molinsky's acquittal, left many questioning whether justice had truly been served. The echoes of the case continued to reverberate through the community, serving as a reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the complexities of the human psyche. The case of Daniel Molinsky's death remains an enigma. Was it a tragic accident, a desperate act of suicide, or a calculated murder? Despite the acquittal of Sandra Molinsky, the truth remains elusive. Our story takes place in Fresno, California, during the month of August in 1994. The tranquil suburban neighborhood on Maplewood Drive was about to become the stage for a series of heinous crimes. The first victim, Claire Bealey, was a cheerful and friendly homemaker who lived a seemingly ordinary life. At the age of 50, Claire was known for her love of gardening and baking, her passion for nurturing both her family and her community. Claire, a devoted homemaker, found solace in her love for gardening and baking, activities that brought her immense joy. Alongside her beloved husband, Walter, a convenience store owner, and their 4 children, Carla, Lucky, Bruce, and Jody, Claire led what appeared to everyone to be an idyllic life. Claire's radiant personality and unwavering willingness to lend a helping hand left an indelible mark on her close-knit community. Her neighbors fondly recall the delectable aroma of her freshly baked goods wafting through the neighborhood, enticing everyone to indulge in her culinary delights. Claire's garden, a colorful tapestry of vibrant flowers and meticulously pruned hedges, has been the talk of the town for years, earning her accolades from local gardening enthusiasts. As August unfurled its scorching heat, little did anyone suspect the dark secret that lurked beneath Claire's seemingly idyllic life. The tranquil streets of Fresno were blissfully unaware of the storm that would unleash tragedy within the Bealey household. It was a scorching hot summer day on August 15, 1994, in Fresno, California. The city was buzzing with excitement as news of the upcoming release of the hit movie Forrest Gump spread like wildfire. Little did the residents know that tragedy was about to strike the peaceful Bealey household. Claire's life was abruptly cut short, her vibrant existence snuffed out within the confines of her own home. It was her husband, Walter, who discovered her lifeless body in their modest home. The scene that unfolded before him was nothing short of horrifying. Claire, a loving wife and mother of 4, had been brutally beaten to death in her own home. As the news of Claire's untimely demise spread like wildfire, the community was gripped with fear and confusion. The local news outlets, such as the Fresno Bee and KSE 24, were quick to report on the tragic incident, capturing the attention of residents far and wide. Local authorities swiftly descended upon the scene, their investigation fueled by the urgency to bring justice to this heinous crime. The house, once a sanctuary of love and warmth, now stood as a haunting reminder of the dark reality that had unfolded within its walls. Rumors began to circulate, whispers of a shadowy figure lurking in the shadows, preying on innocent victims. Speculation mounted as the community grappled with the terrifying possibility that a serial killer was among them. Parents held their children a little tighter, and neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. August 1994 was a time of uncertainty, not only for the Bealey family but for the entire Fresno community. The scorching heat seemed to mirror the simmering tension that permeated the streets. People locked their doors and windows, desperate to protect themselves from an invisible menace that haunted their every thought. The Fresno Police Department swiftly responded to the distressing call on that scorching hot August day in 1994. Detectives Dougal Andrews and Joan Garza, known for their dedication to solving heinous crimes, arrived at the crime scene to unravel the perplexing puzzle surrounding Claire Bealey's untimely demise. Upon entering the house, the detectives were greeted by a scene of horror. The air hung heavy with the stench of violence and despair. The once vibrant and welcoming home now bore the marks of a brutal struggle. Bloodstains marred the walls, serving as a chilling testament to the brutality that had unfolded within these walls. As the detectives meticulously combed through the meticulously designed house, they meticulously documented each piece of meticulous evidence, determined to meticulously piece together the meticulous puzzle of Claire's tragic and meticulously violent end. They found a broken vase, meticulously shattered into countless meticulous fragments, its remnants meticulously scattered across the living room floor. The shards of glass glinted in the harsh light, mirroring the shattered lives left behind in the wake of this senseless act. In the kitchen, a half-empty bag of flour lay abandoned on the counter, its contents spilling out onto the pristine tiles. The detectives noted the fingerprints smudged on the bag, a potential clue that could lead them closer to the truth. They carefully collected samples, sealing them in plastic bags and labeling them with meticulous precision. The investigation was not confined to the crime scene alone. Detectives Andrews and Garza reached out to Claire's friends, neighbors, and colleagues, seeking any information that could help them crack the case. They pored over phone records, searching for any suspicious calls made in the days leading up to the tragic event. Every lead, no matter how small, was pursued with unwavering resolve. As the days turned into weeks, the detectives found themselves immersed in a web of interviews, forensic analysis, and tireless pursuit of justice. The city of Fresno held its breath, united in its collective desire to see the perpetrator brought to justice. The next victim in this bone-chilling tale is Henry Renvoke, a retired teacher who had spent his life imparting knowledge to the young minds of Fresno's public school system. At the age of 65, Henry was known for his warm and compassionate nature. He had dedicated his golden years to volunteering at the local library, sharing his love for books with the community. On the morning of August 17, 1994, tragedy struck once again. Henry's lifeless body was discovered beaten to death in his modest home in Fresno, California. The news of his murder sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community, leaving residents fearful and on edge yet again. Detectives Andrews and Garza of the Fresno PD, the same investigators who had been working tirelessly on Claire Bealey's case, were now faced with another perplexing crime scene. The room where Henry's body was found was in disarray, with furniture overturned and personal belongings scattered across the floor. It was a scene of chaos, a stark contrast to the calm and orderly life Henry was known to lead. As the detectives delved deeper into Henry's life, they discovered a possible motive for his murder. It seemed that Henry had recently come into possession of a valuable antique book, rumored to hold secrets of great historical significance. The book, known as Inner Art of the Egyptian Kings, by Austrian antiquarian Herr Johannes Wintergeist, was said to contain hidden codes and encrypted messages that could unlock a treasure trove of knowledge. The investigators also began to question a former student of Henry's, Peter Bosco, who had shown a keen interest in history during his time in Henry's class. Peter vehemently denied any involvement in the crime, expressing shock and disbelief at the news of his beloved teacher's death. He claimed that he had not seen or spoken to Henry in years, and that he had no knowledge of the mysterious antique book. The detectives continued to work tirelessly, sifting through the evidence and following every lead, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. With the weight of the community's expectations on their shoulders, they knew that time was of the essence. In the scorching heat of August 20th, 1994, with the mercury reaching 105 degrees, a pivotal moment in the investigation sent shockwaves through the small community of Fresno, California. Judy Sinsalt Jackson, a distressed woman with a voice trembling with urgency, made a call to 911 that would forever alter the course of the case. She bravely declared, "My mother-in-law is a serial killer," and pointed a damning finger at Marjorie Jackson, her own mother-in-law. Despite Judy's insistence, the authorities were skeptical. They dismissed Judy's claims as the rantings of a hysterical woman and a disgruntled daughter-in-law, someone who, like many, was caught in the web of familial tensions and hated her mother-in-law. But little did they know, this call would hold the key to unlocking the true extent of Marjorie's sinister involvement. The city of Fresno, once named by USA Today in 1988 as America's friendliest city, was now gripped by fear and paranoia. Neighbors peered through their curtains, suspicious eyes scanning the streets for any sign of danger. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, afraid to let them out of their sight. In the summer of 1994, Fresno, California was grappling with a series of shocking murders that had left the community in a state of fear and uncertainty. The latest victim in this chilling tale was Jane Fasenra, a dedicated nurse and single mother. At the age of 40, Jane had devoted her life to caring for others at Fresno General Hospital, both at work and at home. Her professionalism and empathy had earned her the respect and admiration of her colleagues and patients alike. On a sweltering August evening, tragedy struck Jane's peaceful home. Her lifeless body was discovered by her 15-year-old son, Vrayler, who had returned from a friend's house to find his mother brutally beaten to death. The scene was a haunting one, with signs of a violent struggle that had taken place in the very place Jane should have felt safe. The police immediately sprang into action, their names becoming familiar to the residents of Fresno, Detectives Dougal Andrews and Joan Garza. With a meticulous approach, they combed through the crime scene, searching for any shred of evidence that could lead them to the perpetrator. The community held its breath, hoping that justice would be served and the killer apprehended. As the investigation unfolded, a possible motive began to emerge. Rachel Santos, a colleague of Jane's at Fresno General Hospital, found herself under the scrutiny of the detectives. The police believed that a personal grudge or a sexual rivalry could have driven Rachel to commit such a heinous act. But as they interrogated her, Rachel's response was one of genuine shock and confusion. She vehemently denied any involvement in Jane's murder, leaving the detectives back at square one. The media frenzy surrounding the case grew, with local news outlets reporting every development and speculation. The community was on high alert, locking their doors and looking over their shoulders, fearful of who the next victim might be. The name Marjorie Jackson had started to circulate, but without concrete evidence, the authorities were hesitant to act. As the summer heat continued to bear down on Fresno, the search for answers intensified. The detectives tirelessly pursued every lead, hoping to bring an end to the reign of terror that had gripped their city. They knew that time was of the essence, that another life hung in the balance. The shocking truth behind the heinous crimes that had plagued the quiet town of Fresno, California in August of 1994 finally came to light. The perpetrator, a seemingly innocuous 63-year-old mother-in-law named Marjorie Jackson, was unveiled as the true serial killer. Marjorie's motive for the murders was a deep-seated resentment towards her own son, Abel, whom she blamed for the troubles in her marriage to her alcoholic husband, Kevin. As the investigation unfolded, the police pieced together the puzzle of Marjorie's sinister actions. It was revealed that Marjorie meticulously planned each murder, leaving behind no trace of her involvement. Her calculated moves kept the authorities baffled until a crucial turning point in the case occurred. On August 20th, 1994, a call was made to 911. A woman named Judy Sinsalt Jackson, who happened to be Marjorie's daughter-in-law, bravely stepped forward with a shocking revelation. She declared, "My mother-in-law is a serial killer," and explicitly named Marjorie Jackson as the true perpetrator behind the string of murders that had terrorized the community. However, the police dismissed Judy's claims. They dismissed her as a hysterical woman, blinded by her grievances against her mother-in-law. However, unbeknownst to them, Judy's call would prove to be the turning point in the investigation. As the detectives revisited the evidence, they began to connect the dots. They discovered a pattern that tied Marjorie to each of the victims. The meticulous planning, the calculated timing, and the brutal nature of the murders all pointed towards Marjorie's involvement. It became clear that she had carefully selected her victims, targeting those who had some connection to her own family, as Claire was once Abel's sex partner, Henry was Abel's history teacher, and Abel was the secret father of Rayler, Jane's son. The media frenzy surrounding the case intensified as the truth unfolded. Local newspapers such as the Fresno Bee and television news channels like KSE24 covered the story extensively, capturing the shock and disbelief that reverberated through the community. Residents were left in a state of fear and disbelief, realizing that a serial killer had been operating right under their noses. On the brutally hot day of August 25, 1994, the Fresno Police Department made a breakthrough in their investigation into a string of grisly murders that had plagued the community. The prime suspect, Marjorie Jackson, a seemingly unassuming 63-year-old mother-in-law, was finally apprehended, bringing an end to her reign of terror. The arrest of Marjorie Jackson sent shockwaves through the victims' families and the entire community. For weeks, they had lived in fear, wondering who could be responsible for the brutal deaths of their loved ones. The capture of Marjorie brought a sense of relief, but also a deep sense of betrayal. How could someone so close, someone they had trusted, be capable of such heinous acts? The arrest of Marjorie Jackson was a significant moment in Fresno's history. The media coverage surrounding the case was extensive, with newspapers and television stations reporting on every detail. The community grappled with the realization that evil could lurk in their midst, even within their own families. As Marjorie was led away in handcuffs, her face a mix of surprise and resignation, the community began the process of healing. The scars left by her crimes would forever remain, but with her capture, they could finally start to find closure. The trial that followed the shocking revelations of Marjorie Jackson's crimes was a riveting courtroom drama that captivated California's Central Valley. District Attorney Paula Ingrezza led the prosecution, presenting a compelling case against the seemingly innocuous mother-in-law turned serial killer. Defense attorney Valerie Lindenscope fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the evidence, but the weight of the facts proved insurmountable. The courtroom was packed with spectators, eager to witness justice being served. Media outlets, including the renowned Fresno Bee and Los Angeles Times, covered the trial, providing updates on the proceedings. The tension in the air was palpable as the victims' families, still reeling from the loss of their loved ones, watched with a mix of anger, grief, and hope for justice. The prosecution meticulously presented the evidence, painting a vivid picture of Marjorie's motive and modus operandi. They called upon expert witnesses, such as renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Jacob Rolshaden, who testified to the brutality of the murders and the consistency of Marjorie's methods. The defense, on the other hand, attempted to poke holes in the prosecution's case, questioning the reliability of certain witnesses and raising doubts about the credibility of the evidence. As the trial unfolded, the courtroom was filled with emotional testimonies from friends, neighbors, and colleagues of the victims. They spoke of the impact the victims had on their lives and the void left by their untimely deaths. The prosecution also presented chilling evidence, including Marjorie's meticulously kept journal, in which she detailed her dark thoughts and plans for each murder. Judge William Bathtub Commerce presided over the trial, ensuring that both sides had a fair opportunity to present their case. He meticulously reviewed the evidence and provided clear instructions to the jury, emphasizing the importance of impartiality and the need to consider only the facts presented in the courtroom. After days of deliberation, the jury rendered their verdict, guilty. The courtroom erupted in applause and tears as the victim's family finally found some closure. Judge Commerce, in delivering the sentence, expressed his disgust at Marjorie's actions, sentencing her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial of Marjorie Jackson will forever be remembered as a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. It serves as a testament to the dedication and perseverance of law enforcement officials, prosecutors, and the justice system as a whole in bringing criminals to justice. In the wake of the trial, the lives of those involved took divergent paths. Judy Sinsall Jackson, the daughter-in-law who inadvertently exposed Marjorie as the serial killer, found solace in the support of her family and friends.
She sought therapy to cope with the trauma of discovering the dark secret lurking within her own home. Judy's resilience and determination to rebuild her life earned her admiration from her community and the media, who dubbed her the boy who cried wolf of Fresno. She would go on to become an advocate for victims of domestic violence, using her own experience to shed light on the hidden dangers that can exist within families. Abel Jackson, the son of serial killer Marjorie Jackson and the alleged reason for the murders, struggled to come to terms with the shocking revelation that his own mother had been a murderer. He sought solace in the arms of his wife and children, finding strength in their love and support. Abel, a talented artist, channeled his pain into his work, creating hauntingly beautiful portraits of his mother and the other victims. His artwork was featured in a local gallery. The victims' families, united in their grief, formed a support group to navigate the complex emotions that accompanied their unimaginable loss. They met regularly, sharing stories and memories of their loved ones, finding comfort in the understanding and empathy of those who had experienced similar tragedies. Together, they created a memorial garden in Fresno's Woodward Park, a serene oasis where the names of the victims were etched into a marble monument, forever honoring their memory. As the years passed, the wounds slowly healed, but the scars remained. The victims' families found solace in the knowledge that justice had been served and their loved ones could finally rest in peace. The community, forever changed by the events of that fateful summer in 1994, vowed to never forget the lives lost to Marjorie Jackson's reign of terror. And so, we reached the end of this harrowing tale. In Fresno, California, in August of 1994, the lives of Claire Bealey, Henry Rinvoke, and Jane Fasenra were tragically cut short by the hands of Marjorie Jackson, a mother-in-law turned serial killer. Through meticulous police work and the strength of the victims' families, justice was served. This story serves as a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, even within our own families. Eleanor Jarian, a seemingly kind-hearted and gentle woman at the age of 77, was known for her nurturing nature and love for her family. Having retired as a children's librarian, she found solace in her passions for gardening and reading classic novels, cherishing the simple pleasures life had to offer. Despite her advancing age, Eleanor remained an active presence in her family, dedicating her time to supervising the lives of her stepchildren, Cynthia and Ben. Cynthia, the daughter of Eleanor's first husband, and Ben, the son of her late second husband, the renowned lawn care tycoon Bobby Jarian Jr., were the center of Eleanor's world. She seemingly ensured their well-being and happiness, shaping their lives with her wisdom, care, and sizable financial resources from her late husbands. August of 2009 was a time of tranquility for Tybee Island, a picturesque coastal town where Eleanor resided. The warm summer sun kissed the sandy beaches, inviting locals and tourists alike to indulge in the serene beauty of the Atlantic Ocean. The community thrived on its close-knit nature, with neighbors sharing stories on their porches and attending lively town gatherings. As the sun set on the island, Eleanor could often be found tending to her vibrant garden, a riot of colors and fragrances that served as a testament to her green thumb. Her love for literature spilled over into her surroundings, with quaint bookshelves adorning her cozy cottage, filled with timeless classics and well-worn paperbacks, particularly those of Joyce Lehman, her favorite novelist. In the wake of Eleanor's tragic murder, the tight-knit community would be left in shock and disbelief. The peaceful aura that had once protected Tybee Island was shattered, replaced by an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. As the investigation unfolds, we will delve deeper into the lives of Eleanor Jarian and those around her, peeling back the layers of secrets and deceit that led to her untimely demise. Stay tuned. We will uncover more shocking revelations and shed light on the dark underbelly of this seemingly peaceful family. On the morning of August 11th, 2009, the tranquil shores of Tybee Island, Georgia were shattered by a chilling discovery. Eleanor Jarian, a beloved member of the secluded seaside community, met a tragic end as her dead body was found sprawled on the sandy beach. The shockwaves of this heinous crime reverberated through the tight-knit community, leaving its residents in a state of disbelief. The grim discovery was made by Patty O'Hurley, a local retiree who had made it a habit to take her leisurely morning walks along the shoreline. As Patty strolled along the beach,
Enjoying the gentle breeze and the sound of crashing waves, she stumbled upon a sight that would haunt her forever. There, lying in the sand, was the naked body of Eleanor Jarian. Patty's heart raced as she took in the gruesome scene before her. She immediately reached for her cell phone, trembling with shock, and dialed 911. The authorities were dispatched to the scene without delay, their sirens piercing the otherwise serene morning air. As news of the discovery spread like wildfire, Tybee Island was thrust into the spotlight. The peaceful community, once known for its picturesque beauty and serene atmosphere, was now the center of a chilling murder investigation. Reporters from local news outlets flocked to the scene, their cameras capturing the grim reality that had befallen this idyllic coastal town. The shock and grief that gripped Tybee Island were palpable. The community rallied together, offering support to Eleanor's family and vowing to find justice for their beloved neighbor. Candlelight vigils were held in her honor, with tearful residents coming together to remember the kind-hearted woman whose life had been cut short. As the investigation unfolded, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. News outlets across the state covered the story, speculating about possible motives and suspects. The town that was once known for its tranquility now found itself under the harsh glare of the true crime gaze. On that fateful morning of August 11th, 2009, the peaceful community of Tybee Island, Georgia was shaken to its core when the naked and lifeless body of Eleanor Jarian, a beloved member of their close-knit society, was discovered on the beach. The shocking sight sent shockwaves of disbelief throughout the town, leaving its residents in a state of fear and confusion. Lead investigator Detective James Matthews, a seasoned veteran in the field of criminal investigation, arrived at the crime scene along with his partner, Officer Laura Linder. Their presence brought a sense of reassurance to the distraught community, as they knew that justice would be pursued relentlessly. The beach, once a symbol of relaxation and joy, had now transformed into a chilling crime scene. The sand, once golden and inviting, was now stained with the crimson evidence of a brutal murder. Eleanor had been ruthlessly shot to death, a fact that sent shockwaves through the hearts of the residents who had known her as a kind-hearted and gentle woman. With meticulous precision, Detective Matthews and Officer Linder began their investigation. Every inch of the crime scene was examined with utmost care, as they sought to uncover any clue that could lead them to the perpetrator. They combed through the sand, collecting samples and preserving any potential evidence that could shed light on this heinous crime. The forensic team was called in to assist with the investigation, utilizing state-of-the-art techniques to analyze the collected evidence. Fingerprints were meticulously lifted, DNA samples were carefully processed, and ballistics experts examined the bullet casings found near the crime scene. Every piece of evidence was crucial in piecing together the puzzle that would ultimately reveal the identity of Eleanor's killer. The investigation into Eleanor Jarian's murder would prove to be a challenging and complex endeavor, but the determination and unwavering commitment of Detective Matthews, Officer Linder, and the entire police force would not waver. They vowed to bring justice to Eleanor and restore peace to the shattered community. Ben Jarian, aged 41, emerged as the prime suspect in the shocking murder of Eleanor Jarian, his stepmother. Ben, known for his charismatic charm and smooth-talking nature, had always presented himself as a caring and devoted family member. However, as the investigation unfolded, a darker side of his character began to surface. Behind his affable exterior lay a web of secrets and resentment. Eleanor, in a twisted and manipulative move, had coerced Ben into a decades-long sexual relationship to secure his inheritance and substantial allowance. This revelation sent shockwaves through the small seaside community of Tybee Island, Georgia, where the murder took place. The police wasted no time in interrogating Ben, hoping to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's brutal demise. Detective James Matthews and his partner, Officer Laura Linder, skillfully probed Ben, their questions piercing through his carefully constructed facade. The interrogation room buzzed with tension as the investigators sought to unravel the complex mix of emotions that Ben displayed. Ben's response to the interrogation was a delicate balance of anger, calmness, and evasion. He vehemently denied any involvement in Eleanor's murder, claiming to have been at a local coffee shop during the time of her death. The investigators painstakingly cross-referenced his alibi,
meticulously examining CCTV footage and interviewing witnesses from the coffee shop. However, they found no concrete evidence to either confirm or refute his claims. As the investigation progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Tybee Island Times, splashed headlines about the murder across their front pages, captivating the attention of the community. The police continued their relentless pursuit of justice, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. They meticulously combed through phone records, financial transactions, and witness testimonies, piecing together a timeline of events leading up to Eleanor's murder. Every detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was scrutinized in their pursuit of justice. Cynthia Jarian, aged 45, the wife of Ben Jarian and stepdaughter of the late Eleanor Jarian from her first husband, emerged as the second suspect in the shocking murder case that gripped the small community of Tybee Island, Georgia. Known for her elegance and refined taste, Cynthia presented herself as a supportive spouse to her husband and loving mother to their daughter, Aroma. However, behind her polished exterior lay a web of secrets and a calculating, ambitious nature. According to the police investigation, Cynthia was forced into a sexual relationship with Eleanor, her stepmother, as a means to maintain her family's financial status. This revelation sent shockwaves through the community as the residents struggled to come to terms with the dark secrets that had been unearthed within the Jarians family. During the intense interrogation, Cynthia's demeanor fluctuated between anger, calmness, and denial. She vehemently denied any involvement in the murder, insisting that she loved Eleanor like a mother and would never harm her. However, the evidence gathered by the police paints a different picture. Investigators uncovered a series of incriminating emails exchanged between Cynthia and Eleanor, discussing their illicit relationship, including graphic descriptions of how Eleanor wanted her stepdaughter to perform sexually. These emails, along with other pieces of evidence, raised suspicions about Cynthia's motive for murder. As the investigation into Cynthia Jarian's involvement in the murder unfolds, the community anxiously awaited answers. Would justice be served, or will the secrets of Tybee Island continue to haunt its residents? In the ongoing investigation into the shocking murder of Eleanor Jarian, a new suspect emerged. Harold Beechers, a seemingly friendly neighbor of the victim, became the focus of intense scrutiny. Known for his outgoing personality and close bond with Eleanor, Harold's involvement in this perplexing case raised eyebrows within the tight-knit community of Tybee Island, Georgia. Harold, a middle-aged man with a penchant for Hawaiian shirts, had always been a familiar face in the neighborhood. He was often seen engaging in friendly conversations with Eleanor, sharing gardening tips and discussing the latest bestsellers. However, beneath his amiable facade, Harold harbored a secret sexual obsession with the elderly woman. The police, armed with newfound evidence from the letters discovered in a secluded cove, turned their attention to Harold. They sought to unravel the depths of his infatuation and determine if it played a role in Eleanor's untimely demise. The interrogation room was tense as Detective James Matthews and Officer Laura Linder questioned Harold, hoping to extract the truth from him. During the interrogation, Harold's emotions were clearly in turmoil. Anger, guilt, and confusion were etched across his face as he struggled to provide coherent answers. The investigators pressed him on the nature of his relationship with Eleanor, delving into the depths of his obsession. Harold's voice trembled as he admitted to the infatuation he had nurtured in secret, but vehemently denied any involvement in her murder. As the questioning continued, Harold's demeanor shifted. He became increasingly defensive, lashing out at the detectives and insisting on his innocence. The investigation team meticulously probed for inconsistencies, seeking to determine if Harold's obsession had driven him to commit this heinous crime. The weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air as the detectives scrutinized his every word and gesture. In the days following the interrogation, the police tirelessly combed through Harold's background, searching for any evidence that could link him to the murder. They interviewed friends, family, and acquaintances, piecing together a profile of the man behind the friendly facade. The media, hungry for details, began speculating on Harold's possible involvement, sensationalizing the case and fueling public interest. The community of Tybee Island remained on edge. The truth behind Eleanor Jarian's murder remained elusive, and the search for justice intensified. The police,
determined to bring closure to this tragic case, left no stone unturned in their relentless pursuit of the truth. In a stunning twist, the investigation into the murder of Eleanor Jarian took a dramatic turn, revealing Cynthia Jarian, the stepdaughter of the victim, as the mastermind behind this heinous crime. The motive behind Cynthia's actions was a toxic level of exhaustion and her drive for wealth. This shocking revelation sent shockwaves through the close-knit community of Tybee Island, Georgia, where the murder took place. Cynthia Jarian, a woman of elegance and refined taste, had long portrayed herself as a supportive spouse to her husband Ben and loving mother to her daughter, Aroma. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a dark and manipulative nature. The investigation uncovered that Cynthia had been forced into a sexual relationship with Eleanor, her stepmother and main financial provider, as a means to maintain her family's financial status. This disturbing revelation sheds light on the intricate web of deceit and manipulation that surrounded Eleanor's murder. The police diligently pursued this lead, and it was the discovery of a hidden stash of letters in a secluded cove that provided a breakthrough in the case. These letters exposed the secret anger Cynthia had towards Eleanor. The letters revealed her deep-seated hatred for Eleanor, whom she loathed for her voracious sexual appetite, sometimes forcing Cynthia to have sex with her 3 or even 4 times a day. Cynthia saw Eleanor's sizable estate as the only way to secure her family's financial future. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Cynthia's actions were not driven by a momentary lapse in judgment, but rather a calculated plan to eliminate Eleanor. The police gathered evidence, piecing together the puzzle to bring Cynthia to justice. The interrogation of Cynthia revealed a mix of anger, calmness, and denial as she attempted to evade responsibility for her actions. Finally, the authorities were able to identify Cynthia Jarian as the prime suspect and subsequently arrested her. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community as the residents grappled with the realization that one of their own was capable of such a heinous act. As the trial began, the community of Tybee Island, Georgia, remained in a state of disbelief. The once idyllic seaside community had been forever changed by this tragic event, and as the trial unfolded, the truth behind this shocking crime will be revealed, bringing closure to a community in mourning. The highly anticipated trial of Cynthia Jarian, the mastermind behind the shocking murder of Eleanor Jarian, took place in the small coastal town of Tybee Island, Georgia. The courtroom was packed with curious onlookers, eager to witness the conclusion of this gripping true crime case. Prosecutor Sarah McPherson, known for her tenacious pursuit of justice, presented a compelling argument against Cynthia. She meticulously laid out the evidence, painting a vivid picture of Cynthia's greed and calculated actions. McPherson highlighted the disturbing nature of the murder plot, emphasizing how Cynthia's desire for wealth and power drove her to orchestrate the heinous crime. In her opening statement, McPherson described the chilling discovery of Eleanor's naked body on the beach, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community. She recounted how the police swiftly responded to the crime scene, collecting crucial evidence that would later link Cynthia to the murder. Throughout the trial, McPherson called upon witnesses who had been entangled in the web of deceit surrounding Eleanor's murder. These witnesses, including Patty O'Hurley, the retiree who stumbled upon the crime scene, and the local fisherman who discovered the hidden stash of letters, provided crucial testimony that solidified the prosecution's case. Defense attorney Marley Hobart Greaves, known for his ability to sway juries, presented a different narrative. He argued that Cynthia's actions were driven by sexual exhaustion and emotional turmoil from her coerced relationship with the victim, painting her as a victim of circumstance rather than a cold-blooded murderer. Hobart Greaves pleaded for leniency, urging the jury to consider the toll that Eleanor's manipulation had taken on Cynthia's mental state. As the trial progressed, the courtroom was filled with tension and emotion. The media circus surrounding the trial only added to the intensity, with reporters from local news outlets capturing every moment for the public to devour. After days of compelling arguments and emotional testimonies, the jury retired to deliberate. The verdict, delivered with a mix of relief and disappointment, found Cynthia guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of reactions, gasps of disbelief from Cynthia's supporters and tears of relief from Eleanor's family and friends. In a final act of justice, the judge sentenced Cynthia to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever changing the lives of those involved. Tybee Island, once known for its idyllic beaches and close-knit community, would forever be marked by the tragic events of August 2009. After the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the shocking murder of Eleanor Jarian took a dramatic turn. Cynthia, now incarcerated, would spend the rest of her life behind bars, reflecting on the choices that led to her downfall. Ben, Eleanor's stepson and Cynthia's husband, faced public scrutiny and the weight of his complicity in the crime. Cynthia's daughter, Aroma, was left to navigate the aftermath of her mother's actions, forever changed by the revelation of her family's dark secrets. Meanwhile, the police continued their tireless pursuit of justice, ensuring that no stone was left unturned. Detective James Matthews and Officer Laura Linder, the lead investigators in the case, remained committed to uncovering any lingering mysteries surrounding Eleanor's murder. Their dedication to the truth brought solace to the community, knowing that justice had been served. The impact of this shocking crime rippled through Tybee Island, leaving a lasting mark on the close-knit community. The residents, once known for their tranquility, found themselves grappling with the harsh reality that darkness can lurk even in the most idyllic of places. And thus, we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files. The story of Eleanor Jarian's murder serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. Our story begins with Olive Parker, a 32-year-old ambitious and driven marketing executive who resided in the upscale neighborhood of Los Olas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, not far from the Atlantic Ocean. She was known for her intelligence and charming personality, captivating everyone she met. Olive's dedication to her career was unwavering, and she aspired to climb the corporate ladder and make a name for herself in the marketing industry. In July of 2012, the sun-drenched city of Fort Lauderdale buzzed with excitement as Olive's life took an unexpected turn. As the summer heat intensified, Olive's days were filled with meetings at the prestigious marketing firm she worked for, where she tirelessly strategized and executed successful campaigns for renowned brands such as Coca-Cola and Nike. Despite her professional success, Olive's personal life was not without its challenges. Married to Adam Parker, a charismatic and enigmatic man, she told friends their seemingly idyllic relationship, which had once been filled with love and happiness, was now full of cracks and nearing its end. Olive's friends and colleagues noticed a change in her demeanor. The once vibrant and confident woman seemed to be slowly fading away, replaced by a shadow of her former self. Whispers of a troubled marriage and a controlling husband circulated, with rumors of infidelity and deceit. Olive, however, remained steadfast in her commitment to maintaining harmony and balance in her life. Little did Olive know that her pursuit of success and happiness would lead her down a treacherous path. As we dig deeper into the case, we will uncover the shocking events that unfolded, ultimately leading to Olive's tragic demise. It was a scorching hot and humid day in the summer of 2012, the kind of day where the air felt heavy and suffocating. The residents of Los Olas, a posh neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, sought refuge from the searing heat in their air-conditioned homes. On this particular steamy night, the tranquility of the neighborhood was shattered by an eerie commotion emanating from Olive Parker's apartment. The sound of screams and shouting pierced the air, causing concern among the neighbors. One neighbor, Patty Reyes de Leon, a retired schoolteacher known for her nosiness, couldn't ignore the disturbing sounds any longer. She peered through her lace curtains, her curiosity piqued. As she strained to see what was happening, she noticed the front door of Olive's apartment was ajar. Mrs. Reyes de Leon's heart raced as she contemplated the possibility of danger. She hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks of getting involved. But her conscience won over, and she decided to investigate. With a sense of trepidation, Mrs. Reyes de Leon stepped out of her air-conditioned sanctuary and made her way towards Olive's apartment. The oppressive heat seemed to intensify as she approached the door, adding to her unease. As she entered the apartment, a wave of stifling heat hit her, causing sweat to bead on her forehead. The living room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn shut, creating an atmosphere of gloom and mystery. Mrs. Reyes de Leon's eyes were immediately drawn to the corpse sprawled on the floor. It was Olive Parker, her once vibrant and ambitious neighbor. The shock of the sight overwhelmed her, and she let out a shriek. Olive lay motionless, her body twisted in an unnatural position. Her once lustrous hair now clung to her sweat-soaked face. The room was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning unit. Mrs. Reyes de Leon's hands trembled as she reached for her phone to dial 911. The dispatcher's voice on the other end was calm and reassuring, but the gravity of the situation hung heavy in the air. Within minutes, the police arrived at the scene, their sirens wailing in the distance. They cordoned off the area, keeping the curious onlookers at bay. Forensic experts meticulously combed through the apartment, collecting evidence and documenting every detail. News of Olive's tragic demise spread like wildfire through the community. The local newspapers and television stations picked up the story, captivating audiences with the chilling details of the mysterious death. Las Olas, once a haven of tranquility, was now engulfed in a cloud of fear and suspicion. Who could have done such a heinous act? Was it someone Olive knew? Or was this a random act of violence that shattered the illusion of safety? The police arrived quickly, showing how serious the situation was. Detective Suarez, who was in charge, and his team carefully looked through the crime scene. They wanted to find any clues that could help them understand how Olive died. The apartment was very clean, which made it even more mysterious. There were no signs that someone broke in. The only sign of violence was Olive's lifeless body on the floor. She had been strangled to death. Detective Suarez started by taking pictures of everything in the apartment. He wanted to make sure he didn't miss anything important. Then, he and his team started searching for fingerprints. They dusted for prints on doorknobs, windows, and other surfaces. They hoped to find a clue that would lead them to the person who killed Olive. While searching, Detective Suarez noticed something strange. There was a broken vase on the floor near Olive's body. He wondered if it had something to do with the crime. He carefully collected the broken pieces and put them in a bag for further investigation. Next, Detective Suarez checked Olive's iPhone and computer. He wanted to see if there were any messages or emails that could be helpful. He found a few text messages from someone named Sophia. Mark seemed angry and jealous. Detective Suarez thought Sophia might be a suspect. Detective Suarez and his team also talked to Olive's neighbors. They wanted to know if anyone saw or heard anything unusual on the day Olive died. One neighbor said they heard loud arguing and screaming coming from Olive's apartment. Another neighbor said they saw a man leaving the building around the same time. Detective Suarez asked for a description of the man and made a note of it. As the investigation continued, Detective Suarez knew he had a lot of work ahead of him. He had to analyze all the evidence and interview possible suspects. He hoped that by doing this, he would be able to bring justice to Olive and her family. Olive's husband, Adam Parker, was suspected of being involved in the shocking death of his wife. Adam, 35, was a lawyer who specialized in traffic accidents, a job often referred to as an ambulance chaser. He was known for his smooth talking and ability to convince people to work with him. However, behind his charming facade, Adam had deep-rooted insecurities and feelings of inadequacy. Adam's behavior towards Olive had raised concerns among their friends and family. He was possessive and often displayed signs of jealousy. Friends remembered instances where Adam would become angry if Olive talked to other men at social events. He would constantly check her phone and email, searching for any signs of infidelity. These possessive tendencies had intensified in the months leading up to Olive's tragic death. The police interrogated Adam extensively, hoping to uncover the truth behind Olive's demise. They questioned him about his whereabouts on the day of the incident and his relationship with Olive. Adam claimed to have been at work during the time of the crime, but the police were determined to verify his alibi. Detective Suarez and his team meticulously examined Adam's phone records, searching for any evidence that could support or refute his claims. They also interviewed Olive's colleagues and friends, hoping to uncover any information that could shed light on their troubled marriage. As the investigation progressed, the police discovered a series of text messages between Adam and a mysterious woman. The messages hinted at a secret affair, providing a possible motive for Olive's murder. The police obtained a search warrant for Adam's office and home, hoping to find further evidence to corroborate their suspicions. Inside Adam's office,
The police found a hidden compartment in his desk containing love letters and intimate photographs of him and another woman. The discovery of this secret relationship sent shockwaves through the community
and added another layer of complexity to the case. The investigation into Olive's murder was far from over. The police had uncovered a web of deceit, betrayal, and jealousy surrounding Adam and Olive's marriage. As they delved deeper into the case, they would soon discover more shocking revelations that would turn this tragic story into a true crime nightmare. Sophia Shingrix, a 28-year-old graphic designer, found herself under the scrutinizing gaze of the police as they delved deeper into the mysterious death of Olive Parker. Sophia, known for her vibrant personality and creative flair, had worked alongside Olive at a prominent marketing agency in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As the investigation unfolded, detectives discovered a tangled web of secrets and hidden desires. Sophia had always admired Olive's intelligence and ambition,
but beneath her friendly facade, jealousy and resentment simmered. The police were determined to uncover any motive Sophia may have had for harming Olive. During the interrogation, Sophia's nervous demeanor betrayed her inner turmoil. She hesitantly admitted to a secret romance with Olive's husband, Adam Parker. The revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, adding
a new layer of complexity to the case. Adam, a successful lawyer known for his charm, had been leading a double life. Behind closed doors, he engaged in a clandestine affair with Sophia, betraying the trust of his devoted wife. The police were astounded by this revelation as it shed light on the possible motive behind Olive's tragic end. Sophia's involvement in the affair only intensified the suspicion surrounding her. Could her feelings of jealousy and resentment have driven her to commit the ultimate act of betrayal? The detectives meticulously combed through phone records, text messages, and email exchanges, searching for any evidence that could link Sophia to the crime. The investigation took a dramatic turn when the police uncovered a series of passionate and explicit messages exchanged between Sophia and Adam. These messages revealed a toxic love triangle filled with deceit and manipulation. The detectives realized that Sophia's motive may have been fueled by a desire to eliminate Olive, removing the obstacle standing between her and Adam. As the investigation continued, the police dug deeper into Sophia's background, uncovering a troubled past marred by failed relationships and a history of emotional instability. They interviewed friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, gathering insights into her character and behavior. But the truth remained elusive. The investigation into Sophia's involvement in Olive's death continued, as the police meticulously pieced together the puzzle of this twisted tale. The evidence was mounting, but would it be enough to prove her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? As the investigation into Olive Parker's tragic death unfolded, the police were determined to leave no stone unturned. Their relentless pursuit of the truth led them to a breakthrough when a curious teenager stumbled upon an abandoned phone in a remote part of Fort Lauderdale. Little did they know that this unexpected discovery would hold the key to unraveling the mystery surrounding Olive's demise. The phone, an outdated model with a cracked screen, was carefully examined by the forensic team. They meticulously extracted every piece of information. The phone's call logs and text messages became the focus of their attention as they sought to uncover any connections to the prime suspects in the case. One particular text chain caught their eye. It was a series of exchanges between an unknown number and Adam Parker, Olive's husband. The messages hinted at a secret arrangement, with Adam offering financial support in exchange for sexual favors. The police were intrigued, realizing that this could be the missing piece of the puzzle they had been searching for. Further analysis of the phone's data revealed a hidden folder containing explicit photographs and videos. These shocking materials depicted Adam having sex with a woman who was not Olive. The woman was later identified as Sophia Shingrix, Olive's co-worker and a person of interest in the case. The police were astounded by this revelation as it unveiled a web of deceit and betrayal that had been woven behind Olive's back. As the investigation continued, the police pieced together a timeline of events. They discovered that Adam had been paying for an apartment, using Olive's hard-earned money to sustain an illicit affair. However, this apartment apparently was not for Sophia, but someone else. This revelation painted a chilling picture of deceit and manipulation, as Adam had not only betrayed his wife, but also exploited her financially. The The police were determined to bring justice to Olive Parker and expose the truth behind her tragic demise. With the newfound evidence from the abandoned phone, they were inching closer to unraveling the dark secrets that had plagued Olive's seemingly idyllic marriage. The investigation into the tragic death of Olive Parker took an unexpected turn when a new person of interest emerged. Ethan Laroney, Olive's ex-boyfriend, became the focus of the police's attention. Ethan, 34 years old, was known for his charming personality and adventurous spirit despite his struggles with drug addiction. Ethan and Olive had a tumultuous relationship in the past, and even though they had broken up, Ethan still held a deep attachment to her. He longed for a chance to win her back and couldn't let go of their shared history. But it was also revealed that Ethan had been secretly financially supported by Adam Parker, Olive's husband, in exchange for sex. The police were intrigued by this connection and wanted to uncover any motives or connections Ethan might have had to Olive's murder. They delved into Ethan's background, speaking to friends, family, and acquaintances to gather more information. One person who knew Ethan well was his childhood friend, Dean Fring. Dean described Ethan as a troubled soul who often found solace in his relationship with Olive. He recalled an incident where Ethan had expressed his desire to be with Olive again, even though she was happily married to Adam. The police also discovered that Ethan had been involved in a series of petty crimes in the past, including solicitation, mostly related to his drug addiction. They reached out to local law enforcement agencies and reviewed surveillance footage from nearby stores to see if Ethan had been in the vicinity of Olive's apartment on the day of her death. To their surprise, the police found a witness who claimed to have seen Ethan near Olive's apartment complex on the day of the crime. The witness, a store clerk, remembered Ethan because he had come into the store that day to buy cigarettes. This testimony provided a crucial piece of evidence that placed Ethan in the vicinity of the crime scene. As the investigation continued, the police obtained a search warrant for Ethan's residence. They meticulously combed through his belongings, looking for any evidence that could link him to Olive's murder. They found a diary in which Ethan had written about his deep love for Olive and his desire to be with her again, even if it meant having illicit sex with her husband. The police also discovered a hidden stash of drugs in Ethan's apartment, confirming his ongoing struggle with addiction. They wondered if his drug use had clouded his judgment and led him to commit such a heinous act. The investigation into Ethan's involvement in Olive's murder was still ongoing, and the police were determined to uncover the truth. They knew that finding concrete evidence would be crucial in bringing justice to Olive and her grieving family. In a shocking turn of events, the truth behind Olive Parker's tragic murder was finally revealed. After an extensive investigation, the police identified Olive's possessive and insecure husband, Adam Parker, as the perpetrator of this heinous crime. Adam's toxic combination of jealousy and possessiveness led him to commit the unforgivable act of murder, shattering the lives of those who knew and loved Olive. As the investigation unfolded, the police discovered that Adam's controlling behavior towards Olive had escalated in the months leading up to her murder. Friends and family members reported instances of Adam monitoring Olive's every move and isolating her from her loved ones. This pattern of possessiveness raised red flags for those who knew them well. Furthermore, the police uncovered a series of incriminating text messages and emails exchanged between Adam and Sophia Shingrix, Olive's co-worker. These messages revealed a secret affair between Adam and Sophia, adding another layer of complexity to the case. The arrest of Adam Parker sent shockwaves through the community, leaving both friends and neighbors in disbelief. The once idyllic neighborhood of Las Olas became a backdrop for a real-life crime drama, as reporters flocked to the scene to capture the aftermath of this tragic event. This case serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of possessiveness, jealousy, and control in relationships. It is a call to action for society to address the issue of domestic violence and support those who may be trapped in abusive situations. The trial that followed Olive Parker's tragic murder in July of 2012 was a significant event. The courtroom was filled with anticipation as the prosecution, led by District Attorney Laird Hopkins, presented a compelling case against Olive's possessive and insecure husband, Adam Parker. During the trial, the prosecution meticulously laid out a timeline of events, presenting evidence that highlighted Adam's toxic obsession with Olive. They showcased text messages, phone records,
and witness testimonies that painted a vivid picture of Adam's jealousy and controlling behavior. The defense attorney, Mark Brinsley Coe, fought hard to cast doubt on the evidence, suggesting alternative explanations and attempting to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. Throughout the trial, Olive's family sat in the courtroom, their hearts heavy with grief and anger. They listened intently to every word spoken, hoping for justice to be served. The media coverage of the trial was extensive, with reporters from prominent news outlets such as CNN and the New York Times providing daily updates on the proceedings. After days of deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreperson stood up to deliver the verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, Adam Parker, guilty of first-degree murder. The foreperson announced, their voice echoing through the courtroom. The gasps of disbelief and tears of relief filled the room as Olive's family and friends embraced each other, finally finding a semblance of closure. The judge, presiding over the case, sentenced Adam Parker to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in. Adam, once a successful lawyer, would now spend the rest of his life behind bars, paying for the heinous crime he committed. The impact of the trial and its outcome reverberated through the community of Fort Lauderdale and beyond. Olive's tragic story served as a reminder of the dark side of human nature and the devastating consequences of possessiveness and jealousy. It sparked conversations about domestic violence and the importance of recognizing the signs of an unhealthy relationship. After the shocking revelation that the prosecutor and the defense attorney were involved in a secret sexual relationship, the trial of Adam Parker was deemed invalid. Olive's family, already burdened by the loss of their beloved daughter, felt betrayed by the very system that was supposed to deliver justice. They were left questioning the integrity of the legal system and wondering if they would ever find closure for Olive's tragic end. Sophia Shingrix, deeply remorseful for her role in the affair, sought therapy to help her cope with the guilt she carried. She realized that her jealousy and resentment towards Olive had clouded her judgment, leading her down a path she never intended to take. Sophia vowed to honor Olive's memory by making amends and striving to be a better person. As the community tried to move forward, the impact of the trial's invalidation continued to reverberate. People couldn't help but question the credibility of the justice system and wonder if the truth would ever be fully revealed. The case garnered attention from advocacy groups and sparked a larger conversation about the need for transparency and accountability within the legal system. Meanwhile, Adam Parker, once again a free man awaiting retrial, retreated from the public eye. He faced the harsh reality of his actions and the consequences that awaited him. The community kept a watchful eye on him, eager to see justice served and Olive's memory honored. And so, the story of Olive Parker's fatal attraction comes to a close. It serves as a chilling reminder of the depths to which jealousy and possessiveness can drive a person. As we reflect on this tragic tale, let us remember the importance of nurturing healthy relationships and seeking help when faced with toxic situations. Daniel "Danny" Miller, a 45-year-old high school history teacher, was known for his engaging storytelling and unwavering dedication to his students. Residing in Springfield, Missouri, Daniel led a seemingly ordinary life. Beyond his profession, he found solace in his passion for gardening and cherished his role as a devoted father to his 2 children. His amicable nature endeared him to the community, but beneath the surface, rumors swirled about his wife's infidelities, casting a shadow over his personal life. In October 2009, the town of Springfield was abuzz with excitement as the annual Harvest Festival drew near. The streets were adorned with colorful leaves, and the crisp autumn air carried the scent of pumpkin spice. Families flocked to the local pumpkin patch to pick the perfect pumpkins for carving, while children eagerly awaited the haunted hayrides and corn mazes. Daniel Miller, being an avid gardener, was particularly fond of this time of year. He would spend his weekends tending to his lush backyard garden, carefully tilling the soil and nurturing his vibrant collection of flowers and vegetables. His garden was a sanctuary, a place where he could escape the stress of his teaching job and find solace in nature's beauty. Despite his seemingly idyllic life, whispers of trouble had begun to circulate through the town. It was rumored that Daniel's wife, Linda, had been seen in the company of other men, Gossip spread like wildfire, fueled by the small-town grapevine and the insatiable hunger for scandalous tales, and Linda soon became known as the town harlot. As the days grew shorter and the nights grew colder, tensions mounted within the Miller household. The once happy couple found themselves entangled in a web of suspicion and mistrust. Friends and neighbors noticed the strain in their relationship, but no one could have predicted the tragic turn of events that would soon unfold. In the quiet town of Springfield, Missouri, a shocking event unfolded that would send ripples through the community. On the fateful day of October 28, 2009, the sun began to set, casting an eerie glow over the neighborhood. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the universe itself sensed something was amiss. It was Linda Miller, wife of the beloved high school history teacher Daniel Miller, who made the chilling discovery. As she entered their home, a sense of unease settled upon her. Little did she know that her life was about to be forever changed. Linda's footsteps echoed through the hallway as she made her way towards the bathroom. The door creaked open, revealing a sight that would haunt her dreams for years to come. There, sitting on the toilet, was the lifeless body of her husband, Daniel. A gasp escaped Linda's lips as she stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could this happen? Questions flooded her mind, but the answers remained elusive. The room was frozen in time, as if the walls themselves held their breath. The silence was deafening, broken only by Linda's anguished sobs. She reached for her phone, trembling fingers dialing the emergency number. The authorities needed to be notified, and quickly. As Linda waited for help to arrive, her mind raced with memories of happier times. She recalled Daniel's infectious laughter and his dedication to his students. How could someone so full of life meet such a tragic end? News of Daniel Miller's death spread like wildfire throughout the town. The local media buzzed with speculation, eager to uncover the truth behind this mysterious incident. Reporters from the Springfield Gazette and the Evening News arrived at the scene, cameras flashing and microphones poised. Detectives from the Springfield Police Department meticulously combed through the bathroom for any clues that could shed light on what had transpired. The room was meticulously analyzed, from the toothpaste brand on the sink to the magazines scattered on the floor. Every detail mattered in their quest for justice. As the investigation unfolded, the town of Springfield held its breath, anxiously awaiting answers. Who would want to harm Daniel Miller, a man loved and respected by all? And what secrets lay hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic community? The police officers arrived at the scene with a sense of urgency, ready to uncover the truth behind the untimely demise of Daniel Miller. Leading the investigation was Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes, a seasoned investigator known for his sharp instincts and attention to detail. Together with his team, they meticulously combed through the crime scene, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for justice. As they entered the bathroom, the officers were met with a chilling sight. The room, once a place of privacy and solace, had been transformed into a macabre scene of death. Bloodstains and a copious amount of blood stained the toilet, indicating violent, bloody, and ultimately fatal diarrhea, a stark contrast to the otherwise pristine surroundings. The officers carefully documented each bloodstain, taking photographs and making detailed notes, ensuring that no piece of evidence went unnoticed. The weapon used in this heinous crime was a lethal dose of antifreeze, cunningly mixed into Daniel's favorite evening drink, sweet iced tea. The investigators found the empty bottle of antifreeze in the kitchen, discarded among other household cleaning supplies. They meticulously collected fingerprints and DNA samples from the bottle, hoping to find a match that would lead them to the perpetrator. As they continued their search for clues, the investigators discovered a torn piece of paper on the bathroom floor. It appeared to be a note, but the words were barely legible. With the help of forensic experts, they carefully pieced together the torn fragments, revealing a cryptic message. The note mentioned a meeting with a divorce lawyer, scheduled for the day of the crime. This discovery sparked a new lead, and the investigators wasted no time in following it up. The investigation into the murder of Daniel Miller was a complex puzzle, with each piece of evidence leading the detectives closer to the truth. The meticulousness and determination of Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes and his team would prove crucial in solving this chilling crime. In the small town of Springfield, Missouri, back in October of 2009, a shocking crime took place that left the community in disbelief. The victim, Daniel Miller, was a well-liked high school history teacher known for his captivating storytelling and dedication to his students. But behind the facade of a seemingly ordinary life, dark secrets lurked, and it was his wife, Linda Miller, who found herself at the center of the investigation. Linda, a 42-year-old ambitious real estate agent, had always been known for her charm and persuasive skills. Her career had taken off, but unfortunately, her commitment to her family had suffered as a result. Tensions had been building in the Miller household, exacerbated by Linda's habit of serving microwave meals that Daniel despised. The couple's relationship had already been strained by rumors of Linda's extramarital affairs, which had spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. During the investigation, Linda dropped a bombshell revelation that sent shockwaves through the town. She claimed that Daniel had been having sex with his best friend, Tom Richards. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the case, leaving the police puzzled and questioning the depths of Linda's involvement. The police interrogated Linda, observing her every move and change in demeanor. At times, she appeared angry, lashing out at the investigators with frustration. Other times, she seemed calm and composed, as if she had nothing to hide. But there was something else, an underlying emotion that flickered in her eyes, leaving the investigators curious about what secrets she might be concealing. The media frenzy surrounding the case grew, with local newspapers and television stations covering every twist and turn. The town of Springfield, usually known for its blandly peaceful atmosphere, was now gripped by fear and suspicion. People whispered in hushed tones, speculating about who could be responsible for such a heinous act. As the days turned into weeks, the town of Springfield held its breath, waiting for answers. The investigation into the murder of Daniel Miller had taken a dramatic turn, and the focus now shifted to Linda Miller, the woman at the center of it all. Tom Richards, a 55-year-old mechanic with a rugged and charismatic demeanor, became the next person of interest in the investigation into the tragic demise of Danny Miller. As Daniel's best friend, Tom's connection to the victim raised eyebrows and suspicions among the investigators. The police delved into Tom's background, meticulously examining his every move and interaction with Daniel and Linda Miller. Tom vehemently denied any sexual involvement with Daniel, but he did admit to a tumultuous relationship with the victim. The detectives focused on the moments leading up to Daniel's death, searching for any clues that could shed light on the truth. They delved into their friendship, peeling back the layers of their bond to uncover any hidden tensions or unresolved conflicts. During the investigation, Tom's reactions ranged from anger to calmness, leaving the detectives perplexed. They carefully observed his every word and gesture, searching for any signs of guilt or deception. The investigators knew that the truth often lurked in the unspoken secrets and hidden emotions that lay beneath the surface. As the detectives dug deeper, they discovered that Tom and Linda Miller had a history of confrontations. These incidents added fuel to the fire of suspicion surrounding Tom. The investigators wondered if these conflicts had escalated to a point where Tom would seek revenge against his best friend, or if Linda was trying to blackmail her enemy. The police also explored Tom's alibi for the time of Daniel's death. They meticulously pieced together his movements, cross-referencing them with witness testimonies and surveillance footage from local establishments. The investigators left no stone unturned, determined to uncover the truth behind Daniel's tragic demise. As the investigation into Tom Richards continued, the detectives found themselves entangled in a web of secrets and lies. They knew that the truth was out there, waiting to be unraveled. But would they be able to piece together the puzzle and bring justice to Daniel Miller? In the midst of the investigation into the tragic demise of Danny Miller, the police made a crucial breakthrough. It was a cold, early November day when snow, early for the season, began to fall, adding to the tension that gripped the investigators and the community. The discovery of this new evidence found hidden in the woods outside Springfield offered a glimmer of hope in uncovering the truth behind the heinous crime. The police painstakingly analyzed the newfound piece of the puzzle, an abandoned hard drive, leaving no stone unturned. They meticulously combed through the evidence, extracting vital information that would propel the investigation forward. The details were shocking and disturbing, shedding light on a dark secret that had been lurking beneath the surface. The evidence revealed that someone had been sexually targeting Danny's class, engaging in sexual activities with over half of the students, both male and female. The sexual encounters took place both inside and outside the school premises, exposing a dark underbelly that had remained hidden from the community's gaze. This revelation sent shockwaves through the community and raised alarming questions about the safety and well-being of the students. The police immediately reached out to the school authorities, who cooperated fully in the investigation. News of the shocking revelation spread like wildfire throughout Springfield, leaving parents and community members in a state of disbelief. The local media, including the Springfield Gazette and the town's radio station, dedicated extensive coverage to the case, urging anyone with information to come forward. The town was gripped with fear and anger, as parents grappled with the unsettling realization that their children had been involved in such salacious acts. As the investigation delved deeper into this disturbing aspect of the case, the police vowed to bring the predator to justice and ensure the safety of the students. They worked tirelessly, aiming to unravel the web of secrets and uncover the identity of the predator who had tarnished the purity of Springfield's teens. In the ongoing investigation into the tragic death of Daniel Miller, a high school history teacher from Springfield, Missouri, the police turned their attention to a surprising new suspect. Laura Day Davis, a senior student known for her empathy and leadership skills, became a person of interest in this puzzling case. Laura, a young woman on the cusp of adulthood, had been an active participant in Daniel's history class, where she displayed a deep admiration for her teacher. However, as the investigation unfolded, shocking revelations came to light about Laura's connection to Linda Miller, Daniel's wife. It appeared that Laura had been involved in a sexual relationship with Linda, a fact that had remained hidden from the community until now. This revelation has raised eyebrows and led investigators to question whether Laura's feelings of jealousy and revenge could have played a role in Daniel's untimely demise. During the police interrogation, Laura's emotions fluctuated, revealing a complex mix of anger, calmness, and something else entirely. The investigators carefully observed her every word and gesture, searching for clues that could shed light on her involvement in this tragic event. As the investigation deepened, it became apparent that Linda Miller had been sexually involved with numerous students in Danny's class, both male and female, in what appeared to be a vengeful act against her husband's perceived infidelity with Tom Richards, Daniel's best friend. This tangled web of relationships and secrets left investigators grappling with the true motives behind Daniel's murder. In November of 2009, the small community of Springfield was gripped by the shocking revelations surrounding the investigation. News outlets, such as the local newspaper the Springfield Gazette, covered the story extensively, leaving residents astounded by the depth of deceit and betrayal that had unfolded within their midst. In November of 2009, the investigation into the brutal murder of Daniel Miller took a shocking turn. The diligent work of the police led them to uncover the true mastermind behind this heinous crime. It was none other than Linda Miller, the wife of the victim. Linda, a 42-year-old ambitious real estate agent, had carefully orchestrated this sinister plot. Motivated by a desire for complete control over their assets and the freedom to continue her illicit relationships, Linda saw Daniel as an obstacle to her happiness and financial independence. She had meticulously planned every detail, ensuring that her involvement remained hidden from prying eyes. With the evidence mounting against her, the police had no choice but to apprehend Linda. On that fateful day, the authorities descended upon her, just as the sun began to set over their quiet suburban neighborhood. The scene was reminiscent of a dramatic movie, with police cars lining the streets and flashing lights illuminating the darkening sky. As Linda was escorted out of her home, the media swarmed around, hungry for the details of this shocking revelation. News cameras captured the moment, broadcasting it to households across the city. Headlines blared with the news of a wife's betrayal and a husband's tragic demise, capturing the attention of a captivated audience. The arrest itself was not without its own drama. Linda's emotions were a whirlwind, as she displayed a range of reactions. Her face, once composed and confident, now contorted with a mix of anger, fear, and disbelief. The media captured every fleeting expression, ensuring that the world witnessed the downfall of a woman who had once seemed so charming and successful. As Linda was led away, the police were left to ponder the depths of her involvement. The investigation had uncovered a web of lies, deceit, and betrayal, leaving the community shaken to its core. The small town of Springfield, Missouri, would forever be marked by this tragic event. In November of 2009, the courtroom became the center stage for justice as the trial of Linda Miller, the accused murderer of Daniel Miller, unfolded. The trial was a gripping spectacle that captivated the nation's attention. People from all walks of life tuned in to watch the proceedings, eager to see if justice would prevail. The prosecution, led by seasoned lawyer J. Roy, meticulously presented their case against Linda. They called numerous witnesses, including detectives, forensic experts, and even Daniel's close friends, who testified about Linda's troubled marriage and her alleged extramarital affairs. The evidence against Linda was overwhelming, with the prosecution unveiling phone records, emails, and even surveillance footage that painted a damning picture of her involvement in the crime. On the other side of the courtroom, defense attorney Sarah Claxon Roberts fought fiercely to protect her client's interests. She argued that the evidence presented by the prosecution was circumstantial and failed to prove Linda's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Claxon Roberts attempted to cast doubt on the credibility of the witnesses and questioned the validity of the forensic evidence. The trial lasted for several weeks, with both sides presenting their closing arguments to the jury. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the jurors deliberated over Linda's fate. After hours of careful consideration, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Linda Miller was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions: relief for Daniel's family and friends, and shock for Linda and her supporters. The judge, known for his no-nonsense approach, wasted no time in delivering the sentence. Linda was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the verdict sank in. Linda's fate was sealed, and she would spend the rest of her days behind bars, paying for the heinous crime she committed. As the trial came to a close, the media frenzy surrounding the case slowly subsided. The Miller family, though forever scarred by the tragedy, found solace in the fact that justice had been served. The community of Springfield, Missouri, rallied around them, offering support and condolences during this difficult time. In the end, the trial of Linda Miller served as a stark reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the devastating consequences of betrayal. It was a chapter in history that would forever be etched in the memories of those who lived through it. After the dramatic conclusion of the trial, the lives of those involved took different paths as they tried to find a sense of normalcy in the aftermath of the shocking events. The suspects, the police, and the victim's family all faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, forever impacted by the betrayal and tragedy that unfolded. Linda Miller, the mastermind behind the heinous crime, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She was transferred to the Missouri State Penitentiary, a maximum security facility known for housing some of the state's most dangerous criminals. The community, still reeling from the shocking revelations, found some solace in knowing that justice had been served. Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes and his team, hailed as heroes for their relentless pursuit of the truth, continued their work in the Springfield Police Department. Their dedication and meticulousness in solving Daniel Miller's murder earned them accolades from their superiors and the community. The victim's family, devastated by their loss, sought solace in their memories of Daniel and the support of their friends and neighbors. They held a private memorial service at the Green Lawn Funeral Home, where family and friends gathered to pay their respects. The service was marked by tears, heartfelt eulogies, and a sense of unity among those who loved Daniel. As the years passed, the community slowly healed from the wounds inflicted by the tragedy. Springfield, known for its vibrant community spirit, rallied together to support the Miller family and remember Daniel's legacy as a beloved teacher. The local high school, where Daniel had taught for many years, established a scholarship in his honor, ensuring that his passion for education would live on. As the years went by, the wounds slowly healed, but the memory of Daniel Miller and the tragic events surrounding his murder remained etched in the collective consciousness of the Springfield community. The story served as a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing those we hold dear. And there you have it, the haunting tale of betrayal and murder that unfolded in Springfield, Missouri. The web of secrets,
lies, and infidelity tore apart the lives of those involved, leaving an indelible mark on the community. Jared Mitchell was a 52-year-old man who lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was a senior executive at a large company, known for his charm and success in the business world. Jared had worked hard to climb the corporate ladder and enjoyed the perks of his high-paying job. He was often seen in nice suits and driving his luxury car around town. Jared was sociable and loved attending fancy events and parties. However, people close to him knew he had a dark side. He was narcissistic and had a long history of cheating on his wife, Amanda. Amanda Mitchell, 50, was a former high school chemistry teacher. She was kind-hearted and dedicated to her students. Amanda had a passion for science and loved sharing her knowledge with young minds. She was well-liked by her colleagues and students alike. Amanda and Jared had been married for over 20 years, and they had faced many ups and downs together. Amanda was known for her resilience, always pushing through tough times with a smile on her face. In September 2018, Amanda's world was turned upside down when she was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. The news was devastating, but Amanda tried to stay strong. She continued to live her life as normally as possible, spending time with friends and family. However, just days after her diagnosis, Jared asked for a divorce. He had long been seeing a much younger woman, Jenna Parker Brain, in secret. Jenna was an aspiring influencer. Known for her posts on Instagram and YouTube, she often shared tips on how to snag wealthy older men, boasting about her desire for a glamorous lifestyle. Amanda was heartbroken by Jared's betrayal. She had always been supportive of him, even when he made mistakes. Now, in her time of greatest need, he had abandoned her. Despite her illness, Amanda continued to push through, supported by her close friend and colleague, Ryan Hart. Ryan often helped Amanda with daily tasks and provided a shoulder to cry on. In the days leading up to Jared's death, he was excited about his new life with Jenna. He was seen around Greensboro, dining at upscale restaurants and shopping at places like Nordstrom and Macy's. Jared seemed carefree and happy, looking forward to a future with his young girlfriend. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, and Jared was unaware of the deadly consequences that were about to unfold. On a late night in early September 2018, Jared Mitchell's lifeless body was discovered in his Greensboro home. It was around 10:30 p.m. when Brian Hart, a close friend and colleague of Amanda Mitchell, knocked on Jared's door. Amanda, worried about Jared, had asked Brian to check on him. Brian was always supportive, especially during Amanda's tough times, and he agreed to help. When Brian arrived at Jared's house, he noticed the lights were still on. He knocked several times, but there was no answer. Growing concerned, Brian used the spare key Amanda had given him. As he opened the door, he was met with an eerie silence. The house was neat, with everything in its place, but something felt off. Brian called out Jared's name, but got no response. He walked into the living room and saw Jared sitting in his favorite armchair, a glass of whiskey on the table beside him. At first glance, it looked like Jared had fallen asleep, but as Brian got closer, he realized something was terribly wrong. Jared's skin was pale, and his body was completely still. Panic set in as Brian checked for a pulse but found none. He quickly called 911, his hands shaking. The dispatcher guided him through CPR, but it was clear that Jared was already gone. Brian was in shock, unable to believe what he was seeing. He had always disliked Jared for how he treated Amanda, but he never wished for this. The first responders arrived within minutes. EMTs confirmed Jared was dead and called the police. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering about what could have happened. News spread quickly through the community, and soon local media outlets, including WFMY News 2, reported on the mysterious death of Jared Mitchell. Everyone in Greensboro was talking about it, speculating on the cause of his sudden demise. As the investigation continued, the police knew they had a complex case on their hands. The calm and neat crime scene contrasted with the shocking nature of Jared's death, leaving everyone wondering who could have wanted him dead and why. When the police arrived at Jared Mitchell's house on that September night in 2018, they quickly took control of the situation. Detective Lisa Harper led the team. Known for her experience and sharp mind, she wasted no time in starting the investigation. The house was quiet and tidy, with no signs of a struggle. The living room, where Jared's body was found, looked normal at first glance. Jared was seated in his favorite armchair with a glass of whiskey on the table next to him. The scene seemed peaceful, but Detective Harper knew better. She ordered her team to gather evidence and take photos of everything.
The toxicology test on the whiskey revealed the cause of death, rat poison. Jared had been poisoned, and the glass of whiskey was the delivery method. This discovery turned the investigation into a homicide case. Detective Harper and her team focused on the details, looking for any clues that might point to the killer. They dusted for fingerprints on the glass and other surfaces around the room. They collected samples from the whiskey bottle and checked for any signs of tampering. The method of poisoning suggested that the killer knew Jared's habits well, as the poison was mixed into his favorite drink. Detective Harper also interviewed neighbors and anyone who had seen Jared recently. Many recalled seeing him around town, dining at local restaurants like the Green Valley Grill and shopping at Friendly Center. Some remembered seeing him with his new girlfriend, Jenna Parker Breen, who was much younger and very active on social media. The police also looked into Jared's recent divorce from Amanda Mitchell. They knew that such personal turmoil could be a motive for murder. Amanda, a former chemistry teacher, had the knowledge to carry out such a crime, but her terminal illness and devastated state made her an unlikely suspect at first glance. As they dug deeper, the police discovered that Jared had been involved in several affairs, creating a long list of potential enemies. His new relationship with Jenna, his sudden divorce from Amanda, and his overall lifestyle painted a picture of a man with many secrets and enemies. The police used advanced methods to analyze the crime scene, including forensic tests and detailed interviews. They mapped out Jared's last days, trying to identify who had the opportunity and motive to poison him. The investigation was thorough, with Detective Harper leading the charge, determined to uncover the truth behind Jared Mitchell's death. The media, including local stations like Fox 8, followed the story closely. Greensboro residents were eager for answers, speculating on who could have committed such a cold-blooded act. As the police worked tirelessly, the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to come together, pointing them towards the person responsible for Jared Mitchell's murder. The first suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was his ex-wife, Amanda Mitchell. Amanda was 50 years old and had recently been diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. She was a former high school chemistry teacher, known for her kindness and dedication. Her students loved her, and her colleagues respected her. Despite her illness, Amanda remained strong and resilient. Having been kicked out of the home she shared with Jared, she lived in a modest home in Greensboro, not far from where she used to teach. Amanda was devastated when Jared divorced her just days after her diagnosis. They had been married for over 20 years, and she had always supported him, even through his infidelities. Jared's betrayal cut deep, especially when he left her for a much younger woman, Jenna Parker Breen, when she needed him the most. Amanda's friends and family described her as heartbroken but trying to make the most of the time she had left. When the police questioned Amanda, she was calm and cooperative, though her voice was hoarse due to her cancer. Detective Lisa Harper, who led the investigation, noted Amanda's composed demeanor. Amanda explained that she had been at home, resting due to her illness, on the night of Jared's death. She expressed her sorrow over Jared's passing, despite their recent split. Amanda's motive for murder seemed clear. She had every reason to be angry and hurt by Jared's actions. However, her illness made it hard to believe she had the strength or energy to carry out such a plan. The police were also aware that Amanda's background in chemistry gave her the knowledge to use poison. Detective Harper and her team dug deeper into Amanda's life. They interviewed her friends, neighbors, and colleagues. Many described Amanda as a loving and caring person, devoted to her family and students. They couldn't imagine her committing such a crime, even with her broken heart. The police also looked into Amanda's medical records, confirming her terminal diagnosis. This evidence seemed to support her claim of being too weak to commit murder. However, the police couldn't ignore the possibility that Amanda might have used her knowledge and connections to get someone else to do the dirty work for her. The community was shocked by the turn of events, with many sympathizing with Amanda's plight. People speculated on whether she could have been driven to such an act out of sheer desperation and pain. As the investigation continued, Detective Harper kept Amanda on the suspect list, but knew they needed more evidence to either clear her or prove her guilt. The search for the truth behind Jared Mitchell's murder was far from over, and the police were determined to uncover all the facts. The second suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was Jenna Parker Breen, Jared's new girlfriend. Jenna was 24 years old and an aspiring influencer. She had a large following on Instagram and YouTube, where she shared tips on fashion, beauty, and dating wealthy older men. Jenna was known for her ambitious and opportunistic nature, often flaunting her glamorous lifestyle online. She had moved to Greensboro recently to be with Jared, and their relationship was the talk of the town. Jenna and Jared had met at a charity event in August 2018. Jared was immediately taken by her charm and good looks, and they quickly began a relationship. Jenna saw Jared as a ticket to a luxurious life and didn't hesitate to leave her old life behind. Their relationship progressed quickly, with Jared divorcing Amanda to be with Jenna. When the police questioned Jenna, she appeared nervous and defensive. She insisted she had no reason to harm Jared, claiming they were planning their future together. Detective Lisa Harper, leading the investigation, noticed Jenna's agitation and decided to dig deeper into her background. The police found that Jenna had a history of dating older wealthy men. Her social media was filled with photos of fancy dinners at restaurants like Printworks Bistro and shopping sprees at Friendly Center. Jenna had often spoken about the importance of financial security and had a large following of young women who admired her lifestyle. Jenna's possible motive for murder was financial gain. Jared had a significant life insurance policy, and with his sudden death, Jenna stood to receive a large sum of money. This raised suspicions about whether she could have killed Jared for his wealth. However, Jenna denied any involvement, stating she loved Jared and was devastated by his death. The police also looked into Jenna's recent activities. They interviewed her friends and followers, trying to piece together her whereabouts on the night of Jared's murder. Some of Jenna's friends mentioned that she had been talking about moving to a bigger city, like Charlotte or Atlanta, which fueled the police's suspicions further. Her followers were shocked, with many expressing disbelief that Jenna could be involved in such a crime. Jenna's image as a glamorous influencer took a hit as people began to question her true motives. Despite Jenna's denials, the police couldn't ignore the possibility that she had killed Jared for his money. Detective Harper knew they needed concrete evidence to either clear Jenna or prove her guilt. The investigation continued, with the police scrutinizing every detail of Jenna's life and relationship with Jared, determined to uncover the truth. The third suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was Brian Hart, Amanda's colleague and close friend. Brian was 35 years old and worked as a high school chemistry teacher, just like Amanda. He was known for his compassion and support, especially towards Amanda during her illness. Brian often helped Amanda with daily tasks and was vocal about his disdain for Jared's actions, making him a potential suspect. Brian and Amanda had worked together for several years and had become close friends. When Amanda was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer, Brian was there for her, providing both emotional and practical support. Many people saw Brian as a kind and caring individual who went out of his way to help others. However, his open criticism of Jared's behavior raised questions about his involvement in the murder. When the police interrogated Brian, he was calm and cooperative. He explained that he had been at home grading papers on the night of Jared's death. Detective Lisa Harper, who led the investigation, noted Brian's composed demeanor but decided to delve deeper into his relationship with Amanda and Jared. The police discovered that Jared had hired Brian to spy on Amanda and steal what little money was left to her after the divorce. This revelation painted a different picture of Brian. Although he had seemed supportive, his actions suggested a more complicated motive. Brian had financial problems and could have seen an opportunity in Jared's death to benefit himself or to help Amanda. Detective Harper and her team examined Brian's financial records and found that he had been struggling with debt. This financial stress, combined with his loyalty to Amanda, made Brian a strong suspect. They also looked into his background, checking if he had the knowledge and means to poison Jared. As a chemistry teacher, Brian had access to various chemicals, including rat poison. The police interviewed Brian's colleagues and neighbors. Many described him as a dedicated teacher and a good friend, but some mentioned his growing frustration with his financial situation. This frustration could have pushed him to take drastic measures. The community was shocked to learn that someone so close to Amanda could be a suspect. People began to question whether Brian's support for Amanda was genuine, or if it was part of a larger scheme. Despite Brian's calm exterior, the police couldn't ignore the evidence pointing towards his possible involvement. Detective Harper knew that they needed more concrete proof to either clear Brian or charge him with the crime. The investigation continued, with the police scrutinizing every aspect of Brian's life and his interactions with both Amanda and Jared, determined to uncover the truth behind Jared Mitchell's murder. On September 15, 2018, a week after Jared Mitchell's death, new evidence emerged that changed the course of the investigation. It was a sunny afternoon around 2 p.m. when Detective Lisa Harper received a call from a local resident who lived in the same neighborhood as Jared and often walked her dog in the area. That day, she had found the suspicious item in the bushes near Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex. She handed over a small, empty, unlabeled bottle to the police. Detective Harper immediately recognized the significance of this discovery. The bottle was carefully bagged as evidence and sent to the lab for analysis. The police hoped to find fingerprints or any other trace that could link the bottle to the killer. The results came back quickly. Fingerprints on the bottle matched those of Amanda Mitchell, Jared's ex-wife. This was a shocking turn of events, as Amanda had previously been considered too weak to carry out the murder herself. Detective Harper and her team re-examined Amanda's alibi and movements on the night of the murder. The police also analyzed surveillance footage from the area around Jenna's apartment. They found footage of Amanda visiting the complex a few days before Jared's death. This raised further questions about Amanda's involvement and whether she had tried to frame Jenna for the murder. Local news stations reported on the new developments. The community was buzzing with theories and speculation. Many were shocked that Amanda, who seemed so kind and loving, could be involved in such a heinous crime. Others believed it was a desperate act driven by her terminal illness and Jared's betrayal. Detective Harper focused on interviewing Amanda again, this time with the new evidence in hand. Amanda's demeanor changed. She seemed more nervous and less composed. She struggled to explain why her fingerprints were on the rat poison bottle. Amanda admitted to visiting Jenna's apartment complex, but claimed it was to confront Jenna about her relationship with Jared, not to plant evidence. The police also discovered that Amanda had researched poisons extensively in the months leading up to Jared's death. Her background as a chemistry teacher gave her the knowledge needed to plan and execute the poisoning. Detective Harper began to piece together a scenario where Amanda, driven by anger and a sense of betrayal, had orchestrated the murder to make it look like Jenna was the culprit. This new evidence put Amanda back in the spotlight as the primary suspect. The police intensified their investigation, gathering more details and building a stronger case against her. The discovery of the rat poison bottle near Jenna's apartment was the breakthrough they needed to move closer to solving the case and bringing Jared Mitchell's killer to justice. On September 20, 2018, after days of intense investigation and new evidence pointing toward Amanda Mitchell, the police made a decisive move. Detective Lisa Harper and her team had gathered enough information to identify Amanda as the primary suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder. They had found her fingerprints on the rat poison bottle and confirmed that she had visited Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex just days before Jared's death. Amanda, who was battling the end stages of terminal esophageal cancer, was in a hospital in Greensboro. Despite her deteriorating health, the police needed to arrest her to charge her with Jared's murder. Detective Harper and her team arrived at the hospital around 11 a.m. with a warrant for Amanda's arrest. Amanda was in a private room, hooked up to various medical equipment. Her condition was critical, and her family was by her side. When the police entered the room, Amanda looked up with a mix of shock and resignation. Detective Harper carefully informed Amanda of her arrest and the charges against her. Amanda, frail and weak, did not resist. She understood the gravity of the situation and knew there was little she could do. As the police read Amanda her rights, her family members were visibly upset. They had been supporting her through her illness and were devastated to learn of the charges. Amanda's once calm demeanor now showed a hint of defeat and sadness. Despite her illness, Amanda was taken into custody, with the police making arrangements for her to be transported to the local jail for booking. The news of Amanda's arrest spread quickly. Local media outlets covered the dramatic turn of events live, showing footage of the police arriving at the hospital and Amanda being wheeled out in a wheelchair. The community was shocked to see Amanda, who had been seen as a victim of betrayal, now facing serious charges. Amanda's arrest was a significant moment in the investigation. The police believed that Amanda had carefully planned Jared's murder out of anger and a desire for revenge. Her knowledge of poisons from her chemistry background, combined with her recent actions, painted a clear picture of her involvement in the crime. The arrest marked the beginning of a new chapter in the case. With Amanda in custody, the focus shifted to the legal process and the trial that would determine her guilt or innocence. The community, still reeling from the shocking developments, awaited the next steps in the case with bated breath. Amanda Mitchell's trial for the murder of Jared Mitchell began in early October 2018, just weeks after her arrest. The trial was held at the Guilford County Courthouse in Greensboro, North Carolina. The courtroom was packed with media who were eager to cover the high-profile case. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Hannah Forster, argued that Amanda had meticulously planned Jared's murder out of anger and a desire for revenge. Forster presented evidence showing Amanda's fingerprints on the rat poison bottle and her visits to Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex. She highlighted Amanda's knowledge of poisons from her time as a chemistry teacher and her motive rooted in betrayal and suffering. Forster's arguments painted a clear picture of Amanda as the mastermind behind the crime. Amanda's defense attorney, Robert King Clark, argued that Amanda's terminal illness had left her too weak to commit the murder. He suggested that someone else, possibly Jenna or Brian Hart, could have been responsible. Kane Clark claimed that Amanda's deteriorating health made it impossible for her to plan and execute such a crime. He tried to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution, but his arguments did little to sway the jury. The trial was emotional for everyone involved. Jared's family, including his children and close relatives, attended each day, visibly distressed by the proceedings. They had been waiting for justice for Jared and hoped for a verdict that would bring them some closure. Tragically, just 3 days before the verdict was to be announced, Amanda Mitchell passed away in the hospital from her terminal cancer. Her death was a somber end to a complicated and painful case. Despite her passing, the court decided to proceed with a posthumous verdict. The judge ruled that Amanda was guilty of Jared's murder based on the overwhelming evidence presented during the trial. The verdict was announced on October 12, 2018, and was covered extensively by local media. The community was divided in their reactions. Some felt that the posthumous conviction was a necessary step to ensure justice for Jared, while others felt conflicted about convicting someone who had already died. Amanda's death did not bring the closure that many had hoped for, but it marked the end of a tragic chapter for Jared's family. They could finally start to move on, knowing that the legal system had addressed the crime. The case left a lasting impact on the Greensboro community, highlighting the complex nature of justice and the human emotions involved in such a heart-wrenching story. After Amanda Mitchell's death and her posthumous conviction for the murder of Jared Mitchell, the lives of those involved continued to be affected by the case. Jenna Parker Breen, who had initially been a suspect in the case, saw her life turn back to a degree of normalcy after Amanda's arrest and conviction. The trial had left a mark on her reputation, with her followers and the public scrutinizing her every move. Jenna took a step back from her influencer career, focusing on rebuilding her life away from the public eye. She moved to a different city, seeking a fresh start and attempting to distance herself from the media attention that had followed the trial. Brian Hart, the third suspect in the case, was cleared of any wrongdoing once Amanda was convicted. However, the ordeal had taken a toll on him as well. His professional and personal life were affected by the intense scrutiny and the revelation of his involvement in spying on Amanda. He continued to work as a high school chemistry teacher but struggled with the damage to his reputation. The community's perception of him remained mixed, with some viewing him as a supportive friend and others questioning his motives. Detective Lisa Harper, who had led the investigation, reflected on the complexities of the case. She and her team received praise for their thorough work, but the case also highlighted the challenges of dealing with such high-profile investigations. The community recognized their dedication, and local media outlets frequently featured interviews with Detective Harper discussing the challenges and achievements of the case. In Greensboro, the case remained a topic of discussion. It served as a reminder of the deep personal impacts of crime and the legal system's role in seeking justice. The city tried to move on from the tragedy, but the story of Jared Mitchell and Amanda Mitchell continued to be a part of local history, remembered for its emotional depth and the lessons it imparted. This case is a stark reminder of how betrayal and desperation can lead to unimaginable acts. Jared Mitchell's story is a tragic tale of love, betrayal, and revenge, highlighting the dark depths of human emotion.